wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Sorry about that. But good evening, wrestling fans. Welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Right here every Tuesday night. So glad to be here and looking forward to a wonderful show tonight. Episode 446. John Rock coming on. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? I am not here by myself tonight. Not at all. And I have a very wonderful host here with me tonight. So excited to be hosting with this guy. So let's get him in here. He is the one and only Sonny Money Mayo.
Yo. What's up, baby? It's Tuesday night. It's 7 p.m. You know what that is. That's Wrestle Talk Podcast. What's up there, Hardcore Us? How you doing, my friend?
I am doing good, Sonny. How about yourself? How you doing tonight? You looking forward to our show tonight?
Man, listen, I'm looking forward to covering high spots. I'm looking forward to everything that we do every Tuesday night because we're the only podcast, pro wrestling podcast, that does what we do, and we do it spectacular. Great guests, high spots, hitting it with Big Daddy P, hitting it with the Wand and the FWWC. And then the guest we have tonight, this is a guy that's near and dear to my heart because I've been watching this guy for, over 10 years now. And it's amazing that we haven't had him on Wrestle Talk Podcast yet. So it's long overdue. From the owner of Tri-States Wrestling, a guy who's been a pro wrestler here in the Kansas City area for 15 years, Mr. John E. Rock will be our guest there, Hoss. I'm excited, my man. I cannot wait.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, we always have some of the best guests on here and some of the best topics to discuss. And believe me, there is a lot to discuss. I've been looking over the questions there that went into the randomizer. And so we have plenty to discuss tonight. And, you know, but before we get into that, as always, you know, we can't do this without without doing a little something else. So let's been a little bit since I ran the board here, so I'm still trying to.
It's okay. It was a long weekend for me too, Hoss, okay? So it's okay. Because you know what? We got some of the greatest hosts of Wrestle Talk Podcast, not to discredit Night Owl, not to discredit Skywalker, not to discredit Road Dogg and his Quick Trip Pizza, but when Money Mayo and Hardcore Hoss are at the ones and twos on Wrestle Talk Podcast on a Tuesday night, bro, there could be a million things that go wrong, and we still put on a great show. So it's all good, my friend. It's all good.
But, of course, you know, we could not do this without our glorious, wonderful sponsors, you know. So let's go ahead and get them here. Would you like to do it, or would you like me to take
No, go throw them up, man. I love hitting sponsors because if it wasn't for these sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do this. So big shout out to my brother, Dewan Mills over at Royals Mills Transportation, Rathbun Engraving, where you can get your Wrestle Talk Podcast mug only for $20. That's a deal. You need to go get it. If you don't have it, go get it. Noble Men's Barber Lounge, KCMO, Kincaid Arcade at Oak Park Mall. Shout out to DVD. I just took the little money mayos there. Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, where you can get your Wrestle Talk podcast tumbler, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group in all of social media land. If you're not joining, then as the former mayor of Philadelphia would say, you're a crumb bum, okay? You're a crumb bum. Okay, one more time. You're a crumb bum. You need to be in the FWWC because they cut the best promos. They have the hottest matches. Yo, we just had SummerSlam a couple weeks back there, Hardcore Ross. You had a match. Am I correct?
You are correct. I had a match, and I did retain my hardcore title and still hardcore champion, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and had a really great time with it, as we always do.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
So if you can't, if you've ever wanted to be a professional wrestler, but you just can't do it for whatever reason, the FWWC can help you kind of fulfill it for the most part. You may not jump in the ring and actually wrestle, but we do the rest of it. We do the promos, we do the role play, and we just have a good time. So
you guys have a great time. And listen, I've been around and in and out of the FWWC myself over, the past 10, 12 years, along with Night Owl, along with the Wand, but I've made lifelong friends out of the FWWC. Shout out to Melvin. Shout out to King Jerobi, guys who come and go in the FWWC. But the FWWC, just like Wrestle Talk Podcast, is a family. Okay, you're gonna gain family out of that. Not and maybe even friends, but you're definitely gonna gain family out of that. So big shout out to all them hardworking competitors over there at the FWWC, and shout out to all of our sponsors. Because if it again, and I say this weekly, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart, if it wasn't for those sponsors, Hardcore Ross, you and I wouldn't be able to get the rap like this on a Tuesday night on Wrestle Talk Podcast. So, and there's Susie Hoss chiming in. She says he smacked me into a pool on the promo. Well, I'm sorry, Susie. Hardcore Hoss does work hardcore things, and that's what happens in the FWWC. So.
That's right. She was my opponent, and it was time to get down to business. So, hey.
It's SummerSlam. It was the biggest party of the summer. You got to do what you got to do, my friend.
But you know what? As always, we can't get going here and can't really get things officially started until, we pay homage to the best country around, being America. So it's time that people remove their hats, place their hands over their hearts for the playing of our national anthem.
Brings a tear to my eye each and every time I hear Mrs. Roseanne Barr sing that, and that's courtesy of her singing. I believe that was World Series 88 or 89, and man, it's wonderful each and every time I hear that, Hardcore Ross. There's no one better who does it.
I tell you, it's a beautiful thing, So,
well, listen,
shout out to Aaron Wallace there.
I want to make a little side note on that. So, quick side note on this national anthem deal. This past Saturday, Sunny Money and Night Owl were in attendance at Heartland Championship Wrestling's debut show in Leavenworth, Kansas, as we talked about last week on last week's episode when we had that no good bum, the illustrious one, Ray Leon. During the show, the announcer, Jeff Mitchell, who I know, I consider a friend. I've seen him referee. I get to the show. I go in. I said, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Looking a little snazzy tonight. What are you doing here at the show?" He goes, "Oh, I'm the ring announcer tonight." I said, "Wow, that's awesome, man." So we get the show started. Jeff Mitchell does the national anthem himself. And listen, besides Roseanne Barr, that was probably one of the best renditions of the national anthem that I've heard in a very long time. So, hey, you know what? And Josh Elliott, you hit it right on the head there, buddy. Jeff from HCW, Roseanne, I'm going to give that money to Jeff from HCW because it surprised me. It surprised a lot of people in the building that my man belted these tunes out. I thought it was Michael Bolton in the ring singing, bro. I didn't know what was going on. So, but yeah, shout out to Jeff Mitchell from HCW for hitting that national anthem, man. He took a lot of people by surprise there. Hardcore Hoss, are we ever going to get you to sing the national anthem on Wrestle Talk Podcast?
Hey, you never know. Never know what's going to happen, Sonny.
Hey, hopefully, fingers crossed, man. As long as it's you and not Nightmare Jones, because I think I would listen to a cat scratching, my behind, and then listen to Nightmare Jones trying to hit the Wrestle Talk Podcast national anthem there. So.
I do want to say, though, we give Nightmare Jones a hard time, but I saw today on Facebook where he did have his surgery today, and so, he has come through that. Now it's just a matter of healing up from where he had that, from that bag. And
yep.
So,
many prayers and blessings to Joe. And Joe's a friend of mine, not Nightmare Jones, but Joe's a friend of mine. Okay, I've met Joe in person multiple times. We've breaking bread. We've had a blast together in person every time he comes to Kansas City. And yeah, he's a friend of mine, and I love Joe to death. So big shout out to him. Many prayers to him on a successful recovery from that surgery there.
Yeah, he actually lives right up the road from me. So
yeah, man. Yeah,
he's a good guy.
No, but, great guy.
As always, I think, like I said earlier, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to the wrestling world. So I think it's time that we get into some high spots. What do you think, Sonny?
Let's do it, dog. Let's do it. Let's go.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like clear chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like a runner speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a barely fly, now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast, now they know we about to start the show.
Susie also, I can never do as good of a job rapping on that, man. Listen, there's only one guy who can do that, and that gentleman he just proved it right there. There's no way I can rap like that. Shout out to my boy Assad. Shout out to everybody out there in the comment section. You guys help keep this show going each and every Tuesday night. So I want to give a shout out to them before we get this randomizer going, get high spots going. Hardcore Hoss, are you about ready to get this randomizer going, brother?
I think we're ready, brother. I think it's warmed up. It's ready to go. So let's see what's going to happen here.
Let's find out. Oh, WrestleMania 40, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lincoln Financial Field, or as they call it in Philly, the Link. Hardcore Hoss, I'm going to let you start off on this one, my friend, because I got some things to say about this, but you go ahead and you start off on this.
All right, so the actual question is, what matches do you think should happen at WrestleMania 40? And is this the show we finally see Roman lose his titles? Well, one question I have when it comes to Roman losing his title, and it very well could happen at WrestleMania 40, is it seems to me, and I don't know if it seems this way to anybody else, is WWE trying to erase their history? And the reason I say that is because you look at it. Look how long Roman's held that belt. And I'm pretty sure he's going to break Hogan's streak and, erase Hogan's record. And then you've got, Gunther about to be the longest reigning, so he's going to erase that record. You've got, the Usos were the longest reigning tag team champions. All the belts seem to be having new records. Austin Theory's the youngest U.S. champion. Are they trying to erase their old records? But I kind of hope that this is where Roman would lose his belt. But who would he lose it to, other than maybe Cody Rhodes? He's the only one I can think of that I think fans would really get behind of Roman losing it to.
Right.
So
I mean, listen, I'll start off by saying this. What matches do you think should happen at WrestleMania 40? Well, listen, I think what should happen at WrestleMania 40 is I think we should finally get The Rock versus Roman Reigns. That's what I think should happen. Now, will that happen? Probably not. Will Rock versus Roman happen? Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll be more probably in an LA for SummerSlam next year or Survivor Series or something like that. I think it'll be more Hollywood based. Now, why I think it should be Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania 40? Well, Hardcore Hoss, let me ask you a question here, my friend. Back in 1999 at WrestleMania, what city was that WrestleMania held at with Rock's very first WrestleMania main event versus Stone Cold Steve Austin? In that trilogy, their very first match, what city was that in?
That was in Philly.
That's correct, man. And when Roman Reigns won that Royal Rumble and his cousin The Rock was out there holding his hand up and babyface Roman, top dog, big dog, and everybody was booing him out of the building. What city was that in, Hardcore Hoss?
Philly once again.
Philly once again, man. So there's the history there with that. I think it should be that. I think if you're going to have WrestleMania 40, the big one, and I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go to Madison Square Garden, considering they had WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 20. Of course, they didn't do 30 there, but I kind of figured this maybe 50 they'll go back into Madison Square Garden, but I get it. It's the arenas. They want the attendance records and the whole 9 yards. To me, I think Roman versus Rock WrestleMania 40 at the Link, South Philly, I think that's as big of a match as that if you're going to get. Now, what they're going to do, more than likely, is they're going to, and you could see the writing on the wall now, just even with SummerSlam, Cody beating Brock, and they're building Cody up, and they're building Cody up, and they're building Cody up, and Cody's finally going to win that championship. Is this the show that we finally see Roman lose his titles? Yeah, I believe so. And I believe it's going to be to the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, okay? Am I personally happy going to be seeing that? No. Do I know how them hardcore Philly crowd is going to be? Yeah. Listen, if Cody keeps going on, and some people are not going to like what I'm about to say here, but I give two shits about it. I think Cody's kind of a cheesy baby face. I really do. People were behind Cody Rhodes when he left WWE, and he did Ring of Honor, and he did the Independents, and he did New Japan, and he started AEW. People were behind him. But since he came back, I don't know, man. I just feel real cheesy baby face kind of getting pushed on us. You know what I mean? Who are people cheering for right now? They're cheering for LA Knight. They're cheering for the Imperium and Gunther. They're cheering for this bloodline storyline. You know what I mean? Yeah, the kids are cheering for Cody, and I guess that's what WWE's always pushed, even more in the senior years. But, man, I'm telling you, WrestleMania 40, if the ending is Cody Rhodes there, and he's holding the titles, and he finally beat Roman after all this time that Roman had these titles, and he erased all the history of Hogan and San Martino and everybody you just spoke of, Hoss, don't be surprised if Philly's booing him out of that stadium, bro. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Yeah, I hate to see it happen, but that tends to be the way it looks like WWE's going.
Yeah, just kind of.
I don't know whether it's because of the sale that's happened. They look at it. It's under Endeavor now, so new company, new records, or what. But it just seems they don't want anything to do with the past. They just seem to be trying to erase all that.
Yeah, and it's a shame, man, because fans like you and I, us being fans even from kids to now our adult years, and part of the reason why we do Wrestle Talk podcast is because we were a part of all that history. We were a part of the Hogan run and the Austin run, and you know what I mean, and the Intercontinental Championship, Honky Tonk Man, and all the time he had it and everything. So I'm glad to see Gunther doing it, and I guess it's kind of cool Roman doing it, but. Yeah, man, maybe they are trying to erase their history, and maybe that's going to tie into WrestleMania 40 in Philly next April. You know what I mean? And maybe we'll get a new champion, and Roman finally loses that streak. So we'll see what happens. But let me ask you this, Hardcore Ross, before we jump in this randomizer and get on to our next question: is there any other matches at WrestleMania 40 that you think that we should see? What do you think we should see at WrestleMania 40 next year? Is there anything off the top of your head? Could you see an LA Knight maybe beating Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship? Would you like to see that one? Or, maybe a ECW kind of theme vibe, a Dudley Boys tag? I know Devon retired, but, RVD just had the appearance on AEW, maybe something with RVD. What do you think should happen at WrestleMania next year, Hardcore Ross?
Honestly, I would like to see the Money in the Bank briefcase get cashed in against Seth Rollins. And I don't mean a cash in as far as, okay, Seth Rollins had the hell beat out of him and now we're going to cash in. I mean, cash in for an actual match, one-on-one. And I think that would actually be a hell of a match between the two of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, former guest of Wrestle Talk podcast, Damian Priest, man, he's got that briefcase, and that would be special for him. He cut his teeth in some of them bingo halls and indie halls over there in Jersey and Philly and New York once upon a time. So for him to win it in Philly there, I think that would be really special. And I like your idea, man. You know what I mean? Don't just run in and do the heist of the century that Seth Rollins did, but actually cash it in 3 or 4 weeks before Monday Night Raw and say, hey, I'll see you in Philly. I'll see you at WrestleMania 40 and make it an actual match.
That's right, because I think that could be an awesome match. If it was a fair one-on-one match, I think it would be a hell of a match. It would. But, if you're just going to run in and cash in while the man's down or, have it full of cheating and hijinks and, make it an unfair match, then no, it's not going to be worth a damn. But if you do it right, it would be one hell of a match that I'd love to see.
Listen, I'm ready to go to the next high spots question. I'm ready to hit that randomizer. But before you do, I got one match that I think that should happen at WrestleMania 40 next year, and I got to get this one across. Sonny Money Mayo versus Road Dogg in a Quick Trip Pizza on a ladder match, okay? I think that match would be main event. New Japan, Dave Meltzer, 5 stars, okay? 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Sonny Money Mayo versus that no-good St. Louis loving son of a gun, Road Dogg. All right, Big Sexy over there in St. Louis, I know you hear me out there. I'm challenging you to a Quick Trip Pizza on a ladder match. I'll see you in Philly in April. I'm going to smack it right in the mouth with that Quick Trip Pizza.
As much as Big Sexy seems like that Quick Trip Pizza, man, that might not be much of a contest, Sonny. Not trying to discount you or nothing.
Hey, bro, I know. Listen, don't let Road Dogg fool you, bro. He can hit a 450. He can hit a shooting star. He can hit the flip pile driver. He's got an arsenal to him. Don't let him fool you, man. Listen, let's forget all that. I know we got some more high spots questions on Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. Bro, Hoss, hit that randomizer. Ooh.
Seems to be a lot of talk going around about Edge here lately.
Ooh. Well, you started off the last one, Hoss. I'm going to start off this one, okay? Now, this day and age, social media, it's kind of hard not to read, spoilers and what's going on and so on and so forth. As it stands right now on Tuesday night, probably the hottest rumor in wrestling is that this upcoming Friday, from his home country in Canada, against Sheamus, Edge will have his final WWE match. Now, do me a favor there, Hoss. Get them cronies in the back to throw up the actual question here so we can word this right and maybe have some people from the comment section come join in and see what they think about this. But the rumor going around is Edge, after his retirement and his comeback at the Rumble and so on and so forth, the rumor going around is this upcoming Friday night, Edge is going to have his final match. Now, with that being said, where does he rank amongst the all-time greats? Because Edge has done a lot of things. He was the first Money in the Bank winner. He was the first one to cash in the Money in the Bank. How many times did he win the tag team championship with Christian? Won the tag team championship with Hulk Hogan? Won the King of the Ring? Shaved Kurt Angle's head? Intercontinental champion? U.S. champion? I mean, man, my man was prime in the Attitude Era. And he's been through all these areas. He carried that SmackDown 6 back in 2002. You know, where does Edge rank amongst the all-time greats there, Hardcore Hoss? You know, for me personally, wow, man. You know, you could argue top 10 all time. You could argue it. You know, you really could. For me personally, I would say he's going to fit into the top 10 in my lifetime, in my generation. Not all time, because I wasn't around for San Martino, so on and so forth. But in my lifetime, you know, everything that he's accomplished and as long as he's been around and as many entertainment moments that he has had, and man, my man had the internet swirling in 2005 with him and Matt Hardy and Lita. I was just listening to a podcast about that whole drama a couple weeks ago, and that happened 17 years ago. And Edge was in the thick of that. So everything that Edge has done, and again, for him to retire, and that was horribly sad. He had that great match against Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania. He came out the next night on Raw. He had a tear in his eye. He got put into the Hall of Fame. He cut his long hair. Kind of looked goofy, in my opinion, but to each their own. And then that surprise, and, you know, the rumors were swirling that he was going to come back at Royal Rumble. And I remember standing next to, and hopefully we'll have him on the show later, but I was literally standing right next to Dewan Mills of Royals Mills Transportation, one of our great sponsors here at Wrestle Talk Podcast. I was standing next to him at a Royal Rumble watch party, and it was 10 and 9 and 8 and 7, and who's coming out? And I looked at the one and I said, here comes Edge. And Edge came out, and the whole place popped where we were at. Not just in the stadium where the Royal Rumble was, but where we were at. People were going nuts. So to say that he isn't at least top 10 and then have that type of pop for his return after 9 years, you're crazy. To me, Edge is top 10. That's where he ranks all time in my book, in my generation.
Oh, yeah, definitely got to be within the top 10, you know. And with everything Edge has done in his career, you know, you look at the Brood and, you know, he really is in that top 10, I think. And it's hard to say that he's not and that he doesn't deserve, you know, a lot of the stuff he gets. You can't say that. You really can't.
Nope. So let me ask you this, Arthur Ross. I want to know your opinion on this because it means near and dear to my heart here, and I know you got a little bit of insider information. Do you think this upcoming Friday on SmackDown is Edge's very last match in the WWE, or are we all just getting swerved here?
You know, there seems to be a lot of that same type of question going around. There's a lot of superstars that seem to be making you think that they're retiring or they're walking away, or, you know, it's really hard to say in the case of Edge because, you know, he has been around 25 years, and there does come a time that, you know, when is enough?
Right.
But at the same time, you know, he said the other night, you know, something happened and he found that, hey, I still love this, and if I can do this, I can still wrestle.
Absolutely.
So, you know, on one hand, it's hard to see him walk away with his love of wrestling, um, without something actually making him walk away from it. Um, but on the other hand, it's been 25 years for him. I mean, like I say, when's enough enough? After 25 years, I could see him walking away. So
Well,
I'm not sure which way.
let me just remind you here, Ross. Mark Henry, John Cena, Monday Night Raw. Everybody in that internet world, all them Dave Meltzer fanboys came out. Mark Henry's, it's a shoot, bro. It's a shoot. Mark Henry's retiring. And he had everybody hook, line, and sinker. And then he picked Cena up and gave him the world's strongest slam right in the middle of the ring on Monday Night Raw. And he said, I ain't done yet. I still got plenty in the tank. So, maybe Edge and Sheamus have a great battle in SmackDown, 20, 25-minute match. Edge gets up and he's holding Sheamus' hand, and Sheamus is holding his hand up, and the crowd's popping. And then Sheamus goes to walk away, turns around, and Edge just hits him with the spear. Could swerve us all, man. You know what I mean? And there you go. That could be kind of point proven of why I still think he's top 10 in my generation, because he's done it plenty times before. Plenty times before. You think we're going left and we're going right. He gave him the Kansas City shuffle. So we'll see what happens. But I'll be tuning in to SmackDown this Friday, as I know you will also, Hardcore Ross. But
oh yeah, and it could very well be that he turns around and gives him a spear or something, and then it just sets up a whole story to WrestleMania, and then it becomes, is WrestleMania his last one, or is, because I could see where they would want Sheamus to be his last match when Sheamus is the one credited for bringing him back.
Right.
But I can't see his last match being a Friday night match. It's just not big and grand enough stage.
Well, I think what they're really pressing is it being in his hometown. So
yeah, there is that.
Yep. Well, listen, I know we got some more high spots questions there. So once you hit that randomizer, man, let's keep this party going here. I'm having fun. I know you're having fun. I know our fans in the comment section are having fun. So
yeah, I see fans.
Ooh-wee. The one Billy Gunn, Daddy asked himself. Hardcore Hoss, I'm going to let you start this one off. I started the Edge one off. You get to start this one off, my friend.
All right. Well, the actual question goes right along with, what we were just talking about, retirements. On Collision, I guess actually now it's been almost 2 weeks ago, Billy Gunn, after losing the trios match to House of Black, he left his boots in the ring, and he walked out, and basically makes it appear that he retired. And with the question, is that a shooter or work? And his son has been on Twitter and everything, and has been talking as if he's really retired. He claimed they've been bringing his boots to the ring, and they say that he says he's done. He's not coming back, but just the abruptness of it, just to up and retire the way he did, I don't know. But he did, him and Black, they did have a moment where they whispered something to each other when the match was over, and it did look like a sign of respect. So it very well, could be a shoot. He may really be retired. I know last Friday, Billy Gunn was actually maybe about 45 minutes down the road from me doing an autograph signing. So who knows if he's really truly retired, but what do you think? Do you think it's a shoot or a work?
Well, I think it's 100% shoot. I think, well, let me not say I think. I know, Billy Billy Gunn has, even at 58 years old, one of the best physiques in professional wrestling today. Okay. And this isn't so much a body era as it was in the 80s and 90s, 2000s, especially when they were cloning guys out of the OVW and everybody had tattoos and body and whatever. You know what I mean? Now it's a little bit more kind of, you got KO. He doesn't really have that physique, but he main evented against Austin at WrestleMania. So point proven there. But Billy Gunn at 58 years old not only still has the physique, but still can go in the ring better than probably half these guys can. All right? Now, a little bit of backstory on Billy Gunn real quick. He did not grow up a wrestling fan. He fell into wrestling, okay? He went to college. He was in the rodeo. He liked bull riding. He fell into pro wrestling. And he's seen that he can make money at it, and he's made a hell of a lot of money at it since 1994 when he debuted with the Smoking Guns with Bart Gunn. So I can see Billy being the type of guy, because he does come across, even in real life, as a badass fucking alpha male, that he just kind of was like, I'm done one day. You know what I mean? I'm done beating my body up. I'm 58 years old. I think he'll still stay in good shape. I think he'll do what you just mentioned there, Hardcore Hoss, autograph signings. I think he'll still pop up on AEW TV here and there, maybe a little backstage promo skit or something like that. But as far as actually being in the ring, and obviously he hasn't been in the ring a whole bunch, since he's started with AEW. I think he's been kind of more of a backstage guy and a mentor and helping train in, and a couple tags here and there, a couple singles here and there, but nothing crazy. So I think he just finally said, you know what, I'm done taking bumps. I made enough money. This is it. I'm done. So yeah, I think it's 100% shoot. I don't see any type of storyline being out of this. I think probably with him, he probably would have liked to retire with Road Dogg. But Road Dogg's in WWE. DX is in WWE. Bart Gunn's not around, so he can't do nothing with the Smoking Gun. So, I don't think he's too much of a mark for it. I think like I said, he made money and he had fun along the way. But yeah, I think that was it for Billy Gunn.
Well, and with Road Dogg, with his recent, I mean, I guess it hasn't been real recent, but within the past year, with his recent heart trouble and stuff,
right?
He can't get in the ring right now. At least I won't say it could never happen, but right now he can't get in the ring and take bumps and stuff.
Yeah. There's always ways to work around it. Road Dogg could do his punch, his shake, rattle, and roll, maybe drop a knee. You know what I mean? There's ways around them type of things. But yeah, with Road Dogg's health issues, and again, Road Dogg being a producer or whatever he's doing over in WWE, and I believe Road Dogg's still in WWE. Am I correct there, Hardcore Ross?
I'm not positive. I want to say I heard that. I know he was a backstage talent, but I heard that he got released at one point. Right. I believe. I'm not 100% on that, so I don't think that he is.
Okay.
But I could be wrong on that.
Well, it doesn't look like he's anywhere near the sites of AEW, so no New Age Outlaw goodbye or anything like that. But yeah, Billy Gunn, 58 years old. He got his kids into the business. He gave us so many great memories in the Attitude Era. I was always a fan of Mr. Ass. I'll give you even more of an underrated one. I was a fan of the one Billy Gunn. He had the crowd thinking that he was doing a little something else different with the Billy and Chuck deal, and that was really entertaining. So, yeah, I think Billy Gunn's it. I think that's it for him. I think it's a shoot, and if it is, hopefully this comes across to him. Hopefully Billy Gunn sees a little bit of Wrestle Talk podcast, and we salute him, sir. Thank you for all the great memories. Thank you for everything you've done in this business.
Oh yes, definitely. And Susie brings up the point that it's the same as Jey Uso. He said that he's done with the bloodline. He's out of the SmackDown and he's out of the WWE. And that brings up the question: is that a shoot or not?
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I know all the internet guys are saying, oh, yeah, his contract's really up. And Even mentioned AEW, but I don't. Nah, man, the Bloodline storyline's probably been the best storyline that we've had in WWE, and I don't know how long. So I'm glad you put them headphones on. I don't hear my echo no more. But I think that's a work. I think Jey Uso's a work. You know what I mean? I don't see that as being an issue. I just don't. It's been too much time, money, blood. You know what I mean? There's been so much invested in that storyline. We've been on this Bloodline storyline for how long now, Hoss?
Yeah, exactly. I know that story's been around for a good while, and now that his brother's back and it looks like he's turning on him and everything. Although I did see today that, and if it is a shoot, I must say WWE's done a decent job with it. I mean, if it is a work, sorry, WWE's done a decent job with it, because they even took him off the list of active rosters and put him in to the alumni section.
Yep. But you know what? I've seen them do that. We just talked about a little while ago with the Mark Henry thing. I think they even did that with the Mark Henry thing. You know what I mean? I've seen WWE do that to progress storylines. You know what I mean? And that's cool, man. But nah, man. I'm a betting guy. All right. I'm Sunny Money. I'll place my bet. All right. They know me in Vegas really well. All right. And the two best Vegas odds that they got going on right now is one, Jey Uso, definitely a work. And we got to check the odds on that in Vegas. And two, the other Vegas odds that they got going is Sunny Money versus Big Sexy Road Dogg at WrestleMania 40 in Philly next year on a Quick Trip Pizza ladder match. I'm the definite odds-on favorite on that one. All right, so Vegas ain't wrong on that, and Vegas ain't wrong on Jey Uso. Ain't no way Jey Uso's quitting WWE, my man. Ain't happening. Listen, let me tell you this real quick before we get to your point. If Jey Uso quits WWE as a shoot, I will come on the Wrestle Talk podcast myself and say, I was wrong. I'm a man. I can admit when I'm wrong, and I'll definitely admit when I'm wrong. I ain't wrong about that one.
Well, we'll be sure to call those odds into the Swag Daddy Casino,
Absolutely, bro. Please do.
So, all right. Well, let's hit the randomizer here and see what it's going to come up with now.
Woo! And now, speak of the devil. Speak of the devil. Speak of the topic
must have been listening.
Speak of the topic at hand. Jimmy versus Jey Uso. Brother versus brother. We've seen it time and again in professional wrestling. Not just WWE, but professional wrestling. So with the high spots question, with Jimmy versus Jey Uso now looking to happen in the near future, how good can this brother versus brother feud rank amongst other brother versus brother feuds? All right, so right off the top of my head, you had Ricky Steiner versus Scott Steiner. Probably your most known one was Undertaker versus Kane, even though I hate to break this to you folks, they weren't really brothers. I know some people still believe that out there. But
what? Next you're going to tell me there's no Santa Claus. What the hell you mean they're not brothers?
No, Santa Claus is real. He hangs out in the back of Road Dogg's apartment. You don't see him back there in the background. He's there at Road Dogg's apartment. Santa Claus is real, bro. But, God, man, Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy, Edge versus Christian. We haven't had a Young Bucks feud yet, but comment section, help me out here. How many brother versus brother feuds have we got? Start bringing them off here, because I know you guys can talk about it. The Dudleys in ECW. The Dudleys in ECW, before Devon and Bubba, and before it was just them two, and it was the Dudley family, the Dudleys used to beat the shit out of each other every week. They would go out to the ring, they would team up together, and then Dudley and Chubby Dudley and Dances with Dudley and all the Dudleys just beat the crap out of each other, man. It was wild. God, we've got so many of them. So, with that question at hand, Jimmy versus Jey. Now, listen. Tying it in Owen versus Brett. Thank you very much, Aaron Wallace. SummerSlam 94, how can I forget? Probably the best, in my opinion, that could be the best brother versus brother feud of all time. They feuded for the championship. With Jimmy versus Jay tied into this whole bloodline storyline, and let me ask you a question here, Hardcore Ross, before I keep it going. Did you see Jimmy coming out and super kicking Jay at SummerSlam in the main event last week? Did you see that coming?
I wasn't sure that it would happen at SummerSlam, but I had a feeling that eventually he would come back and he would turn on his brother, but I wasn't exactly sure when it would happen. So
Right.
I won't say a complete yes to that, but I won't say a complete no either.
I did not see that coming. I did not. Again, if you would have asked me last week when I was on here on Wrestle Talk podcast, do I think Jimmy's going to come out and super kick Jay during the match? I would have said, let's go to Vegas. Let's put the money on it. And I just say no. I would have lost, and I would have came on Wrestle Talk podcast this week and said, hey, I was wrong. I'll fess up to it. Jimmy versus Jay, with the current bloodline storyline that's going on, with as many eyes that are on the product, and you can argue there's as many eyes now on the product as there has ever been before, this could potentially, even further than Brett versus Owen, could be one of the best, if not the best, brother versus brother feud that we've ever seen in professional wrestling. Big ups to my boy, Big Country Matt Stockdale out there checking in the comment section. It's good to see you this past weekend, my brother. We're talking right now, Jimmy versus Jay Uso, High Spots, Wrestle Talk podcast with Jimmy versus Jay Uso. Now looking to happen in the near future. How good can the brother versus brother feud rank amongst others? So listen, I think it could be, honestly, it has the potential. Again, with everything that's going on with the bloodline, I think Rikishi could potentially get involved. We already got Solo involved. I feel like The Rock is going to be creeping in here somewhere. I feel like The Rock's coming. I don't know if it's just to deal with Roman or deal with the whole bloodline storyline, but with the Hollywood writers' strike, and I think Rock wants to promote XFL really bad, and he wants to go back home. He's overdue to come back home to WWE. I really think that if we can power this thing to where it can go, Jimmy versus Jay could be probably be the best brother versus brother feud there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it is funny that you mention, Rikishi coming into it somewhere, because I saw a thing today. Now I did not see the actual post, so I'm not going to say that it was a 100% true post. But I did see a thing on social media today that said something about Rikishi accidentally posting a poster for Payback, and it showed him on that poster and saying something about special guest referee for a match. So if you believe that, then because I went back and looked for it, and then I saw where it said that he had removed it. But if you believe that, yes, that was post, or even if you saw it posted, then yeah, definitely Rikishi could be coming back to be special guest referee in a match. And what match would that be? Well, obviously, it would probably be Jimmy versus Jay, because it just makes too much sense that he's not going to be special guest referee for his two sons.
Let me ask you this question, and we'll tie it to a previous High Spots question that we had here tonight. Good evening to one of our co-hosts of Wrestle Talk podcast, Chris Rodell. Rodell, you and I, WrestleMania 40, buddy. Quick trip ladder match. It's going to happen. Let me ask you this, though, Hardcore Ross. We just asked this question a couple questions ago. What matches do you think should happen at WrestleMania 40? Do you think Jimmy versus Jay, you think that should have been waited, or do you think the timing is right now for them to have that? Do you think that should have been waited to WrestleMania 40? Rikishi as the referee there at WrestleMania 40? You think that maybe could have happened that way?
On one hand, Jimmy versus Jay seems like it should be a big match, and what bigger stage than WrestleMania do you put that match on? So it would make sense at WrestleMania, and I imagine some people probably would say, well, why didn't they wait? But then you look at it, you know, them turning on each other like that, what better place to have it than Payback?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's a good point there, Hardcore Ross. That's
I
a
mean,
good point.
if one's going to get payback on the other, what better place to do it than at Payback?
And do you think their father should be involved in the storyline? You think Rikishi should be special guest referee, or maybe come out and cut a promo on Jimmy and saying what the hell, or cut promo on Jay? You think Rikishi should be a part of this bloodline storyline? And not even Rikishi. Do you think we should see more members of that family appear on WWE TV and be more progressive in this bloodline storyline?
I do think that you could see other members and other members would make sense in it, but Rikishi coming back into it, as special guest referee or really in any capacity, I, I can I can see where it just makes too much sense for it not to happen.
Yeah.
It makes too much sense for him to come back, not to have him come back. Everybody would be sitting there going, "Why didn't he?" It would just it would cause too much confusion. I think almost for him not to be coming back into it at some capacity.
Right. Right. No, I think it's absolutely. I think you're absolutely right there. I think it's definitely well deserved. Maybe even a little bit overdue at this point. You know what I mean? I would have been betting money that he would have came in more when they were all conjoined together. But it has not happened. And listen, there's a lot more of that bloodline family members out there, especially in the independent wrestling scene. So if you see somebody part of that bloodline that's not on WWE TV and they're at one of your local promotions, you better go down there and pay that $15-20 and go see them live and in person and up close before they're on WWE TV. And then you got to pay $40-50 to sit in the nosebleeds of your local arena to see them. So
Aaron Wallace thinks it's just like an episode of Days of Our Lives or As the World Turns or Beverly Hills 90210.
hey, I'm a big fan of Beverly Hills 90210. All right, there, Aaron Wallace. So watch it. All right, buddy. I'm a big what was it, Brandon and Dylan fan? Yeah, man. Yo, Jenny Garth and 90210 was one of my very first crushes back there in like 94, 95. All right. I thought I was going to grow up and move out to Beverly Hills and be part of that whole high school drama and drive like a cool Mustang and shit. But shit didn't work out. I had to take the bus and, that's okay. So, but yeah, that's exactly what it's like. That's what professional wrestling is. Come on, Aaron Wallace, you know this, my man. You're versed in pro wrestling. That's what it is. It's something that keep you attached. Something that when you think you're out, they just pull you back in. And that bloodline storyline has been pulling everybody in, and I don't think no one's tried to walk away from it in the year and a half, 2 years it's been going on. So,
if you didn't have the soap opera stories in it, then what would they be fighting over? It would make no sense.
It would be New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's what it would be. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that at all either. There's a lot of wrestling companies out there that prided on just the art of professional wrestling. And then there's a lot of companies out there that prided on just the storyline aspect with some wrestling involved. I like them both. All right. Just like as much as I like wrestling in Mexico, I like wrestling in a backyard with deathmatch wrestling. Wrestling has all sorts of avenues and aspects of that. And some people like this, some people like that, and that's okay. That's the beauty of pro wrestling. So,
yeah.
So what
definitely.
do you think there? What do you think there, Hardcore House? Where we going with this thing, man? We're going to be keeping high spots going, or?
Well, we don't have our guest did just he is back in the green room, but we don't have Dewan back there yet. And unfortunately, Big Daddy P is not available tonight.
Okay.
I got a message letting me know that.
Okay.
So
okay.
We should have time for a couple more questions, and then
yeah, let's hit it, man, because listen, it's the high spots. It's one of my favorite segments, if not favorite segment of Wrestle Talk podcast. Shout out to my baby boy over there in St. Louis, one of the only gentlemen that I absolutely love going to St. Louis to absolutely see. Jay Hollywood, big shout out to you, my brother. I love you to death, man. But Hardcore Us, I know you got a lot more in that randomizer, brother. Let's hit that randomizer. Let's keep these high spots going. I just seen a post about him too. I just seen a post about an hour ago before we went live on the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tyrus. All right, Hardcore Hoss, I started off the last one. I'm going to let you start this one off, my friend. Hit him with that high spots question there.
Yeah, the question is, has NWA accomplished getting more eyes on its product with Tyrus as champion, or is it a flop? Honestly, I'm going to have to yield this one to you because I honestly I check out NWA from time to time online and stuff, but I don't really follow it enough to really have a versed opinion on that one.
And not a lot of people do. And that's a shame, considering the history of the NWA. At one time, the NWA was the most powerful wrestling organization in probably the entire world, but definitely in the United States of America, okay? And for what it's been now and where it's at today in 2023, complete flop. Listen, I remember TNA, NWA TNA starting off. Wednesday night pay-per-views, $9.95. It was a new concept back in 2002. And their main belt was the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And that was the first time that title has had any prestige or anything to talk about since 1995 when Shane Douglas threw it down. I'm sorry, 1994 when Shane Douglas threw it down in the ECW arena and declared himself the ECW heavyweight champion instead of the NWA heavyweight champion. So from 1994 to 2002, there was really no prestige there. Then 2002 came around, NWA, TNA, new concept, WCW was out of business, ECW is out of business. We're doing this thing down in Nashville where they're charging $9.95 every week, Wednesday nights, to check it out. Ken Shamrock won the NWA championship. And I said, man, maybe the NWA championship's going to start meaning something again. Nah, unfortunately not. It kind of flopped again. Now you fast forward to these past couple years. Nick Aldis. Wow. That's all I got to say. Wow. Nick Aldis brought prestige back to the NWA championship as it should have been. Okay. Nick Aldis went all around the world and defended the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And I myself even got to see Nick Aldis versus the late, great Jason Strife up in Omaha, Nebraska for Magnum Pro for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And let me tell you something, Hardcore Ross. I made that 3-hour trip from Kansas City up to Omaha, Nebraska just to see the NWA World Heavyweight Championship match. This way I can say, as a wrestling fan, I've seen the NWA World Heavyweight Championship wrestling match because I'm a fan of the history of professional wrestling, and that has a lot of history to it. So now we fast forward now to Tyrus, Mr. Funkasaurus in WWE. Tyrus gets the championship. Now, Billy Corgan has done a really, I can't say good job, but I think he's done an okay job with NWA since he's started the NWA Power, which you could find on YouTube. I think he thought putting the belt on Tyrus was going to be a lot more bigger of a deal. That being because if you don't know, Tyrus is a big political guy. He's a political analyst. He's really good with his money from what I hear, but he's always on Fox News. So I know what they were thinking there, Hardcore Ross. Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, who owns NWA, said, man, we're going to put this belt on you, Tyrus. You're going to be appearing on Fox News on Sunday mornings. You're going to be appearing on Fox News on Wednesday nights. You're going to have that big, shiny NWA championship, the championship that Ric Flair held, Dusty Rhodes, so on and so forth. And we're going to get eyes on our product. Not so much. I think they really thought it was going to do this, and it just flopped. So, no. NWA, and I can tell by your ratings, I'm sorry to say it, and I wish it wasn't true, but you have not accomplished getting more eyes on your product with Tyrus as champion. And Hardcore House, when you brought up that image of Tyrus, and we started this question on High Spots about him, I mentioned it about an hour beforehand, and I wish I would have wrote it down. That's a bad hosting job on my end. But you can find it. A lot of people that I'm friends with here are friends with me on my personal Facebook page, Sunny Money Mayo. I shared it on there. Do you know, Hardcore Hoss, that Tyrus, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, hasn't had a single wrestling match since April of 2023? A single wrestler. He's not injured, at least that we know of. But he got the belt just to go on Fox News. I mean, are you crazy, NWA? What are you doing? There's so many talented guys and gals out there. I know there's so many talented people in that NWA roster who probably deserve that belt more than just a guy who was the bodyguard for Snoop Dogg and did the dinosaur dances on Monday Night Raw a couple of years ago, and now he talks money and politics on Fox News. Bad move, NWA. Bad move.
In all honesty, like I say, I do catch stuff every now and then online from NWA, and I think the last actual story that I caught on NWA was when Ricky Morton made his heel turn.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the last thing that I caught. And,
right.
So it seems to me, based on, from what you said and just based on, what's caught my attention and what hasn't, I would say that, honestly, it seems like Ricky Morton heel turn probably got more traction than that did.
Yeah, and that's a shame, man, because listen, not to discredit Ricky Morton and everything that he's gave to this professional wrestling business, and trust me, my friend, he's gave 2 lifetimes worth, not let alone 1 lifetime worth of knowledge, wealth, blood, sweat, and tears to this professional wrestling business, and he still does today. But with that being said, you can't expect a 60-something-year-old man to hold up a national promotion, a promotion with that much history, and that be your number one thing to get eyes on the product. And then people see, again, Funkasaurus come out with the NWA championship and they change the channel. Bad move, NWA. Bad move, man. I hope, I hope that they get the championship back onto somebody who actually goes around the world and defends it like Nick Aldis did, because you know what? And it wasn't just myself, but it was people in the wrestling community, people on the internet. The NWA name was said a lot more when Nick Aldis was champion. It really was. I know he had a match against Cody Rhodes. Again, I got to see him in Omaha against the great Jason Strife. And happy late birthday to Jason Strife. We miss you down here. He's defended it literally all over the world. I know he went to Scotland, England, Mexico, Japan, everywhere. And that's the type of champion that the NWA needs if they want to bring back that prestige and that history of the NWA.
Yeah, Night Owl says, let's be honest, Tyrus gets heat for stuff outside of wrestling.
Okay, and that's fine, Night Owl. He does. You're absolutely right. But that should make it even more to say, you know what? This guy pisses me off. I don't like what he thinks about money or politics or anything. Oh, he's facing this guy that the NWA is promoting? He looks like a big, tough, good guy? Man, I'm going to turn on NWA. I'm going to find NWA. I mean, it's 2023. All I got to type in is NWA. I'm going to find it on YouTube, and I'm going to watch this good guy beat the crap out of this Tyrus guy because I don't like how he thinks politically. Wouldn't you think that would get some ratings there, Hardcore Hoss? And Night Owl's correct. He's not no Nick Aldis. He's not no Nick Aldis. I think, but Tyrus has been around the business long enough that he could put together a wrestling match. Well, he's not even doing that. My man hasn't had a match since April of 2023. He hasn't had a match all summer long. You're the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. No one knows if you're injured or not because that hasn't been put out because, again, your product's not getting pimped. But come on, man. Yo, and then one more time for Night Owl, man. Shout out to all our boys over there at I-70 Hot Tag. Shout out to Chase and Josh. I get on their podcast and bother them. I always say shit to make them laugh and try to break them, and you know what I mean. So, but those guys are some good guys over there.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap that one up there. And honestly, Dewan is not backstage yet, but Big Daddy P has popped in.
Oh, let's hit him, man.
So let's go ahead and bring him in here. Our resident chaplain here at the FWWC. let's put our hands together and welcome Big Daddy P.
What's up, guys? You caught me. My daughter just got finished. Listen, if there's one lesson I can give you, it's this. If you don't do your homework, your home don't work. So my girl had a performance at the football game. So we just got finished, and I snuck in and said, hey, it's 8:02. There's still time for some prayer.
Definitely. Always time for prayer. And, it's great to see you. I told him that I didn't think you were going to make it. And then, poof, there you are,
Well, and the thing is, I didn't know how long the game was going to be. So I didn't want to say I was and then find myself not being able to be available. But Mrs. Hartman is holding the light on outside where actually there's the field. So I just figured I would catch in and jump in. Y'all doing all right?
We're doing spectacular, man. We're having a great episode tonight on here, Wrestle Talk Podcast. Your boy, your friend of yours, El Mata Rata, says turn your camera, you goofy pastor. He's telling you to turn your camera in landscape mode. I don't know if you're able to do that, but if you're not, there it is. There it is. There it is.
Follow directions.
Absolutely, you do. But when you got a guy named El Mata Rata, I would definitely follow directions. So. But no, we're having a great night as usual. Every Tuesday night, we kicked it off 7 p.m. Central Time here, and I was a little bit sad because I was on last week and I got the opportunity to talk with you, and I was hoping you were going to be on this week. I know you have prior obligations, but when Hardcore Ross told me that Big Daddy P's backstage, he wants to jump on, absolutely, baby, 100%. So. Now, hold on before you go on there, Big Daddy P. Now, listen, I owe this to you, okay? Because I butchered it last week, so I'm going to get it right this week. I've been practicing a little bit around the house. My wife is looking at me like I'm crazy. She doesn't know what I'm talking about, but this is for you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend and should be yours to the Wrestle Talk Podcast, Big Daddy P.
You got it, dude.
There it is.
You got it. Awesome. Man, listen, this has been kind of a crazy week. We've lost 3 people this week. My pastor lost his wife. I had a friend of mine as I was on my way to Chicago. I called him because the moment I hit Chicago, we were supposed to meet up. And his landlord answered the phone, said, sorry, he passed away. I was like, man. So it's just kind of been, it's kind of been a week of loss. But at the same time, it's also been a week of gain because it gives me a perspective that life is so short, I mean, anybody could go at any time. And so I actually don't have any prayer requests, which is kind of crazy. But the reason why I don't is because all my prayers have been answered, man. The greatest thing that I've ever desired and I've ever wanted was to have a woman who would love me. And we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary yesterday. And she had to get a colonoscopy today. So thank you. So fortunately, it wasn't yesterday because otherwise I'd have been jealous. But anyway, that's a whole nother story in itself. But I'm just thankful. Say hello, my dear.
Hello, Mr. Hartman. It is great to meet you. Welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Thank you.
But all is well. The Lord is faithful. Did you guys get any prayer requests today?
No, I don't believe we did. Hardcore Ross, do you know if we got any prayer requests today?
The only ones I know of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Joey had his surgery today, Nightmare Jones.
How'd that go?
He said he's alive, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, 'cause he was having something removed, right?
Yeah, he was getting a colostomy.
Thank God. Removed. God, that's got to be just a nightmare to deal with, pun intended.
So so let's go ahead and keep him in prayer for healing. Then I have a couple of requests. So one is a friend, Janet, who is battling stage 4 lung cancer. And we know she's left the hospital, but since leaving the hospital, we haven't been able to get in touch with her or even really find out where she is. So hopefully, she's doing well and want to keep her in prayer. And then I have another friend, Greg, who has been in hospice care for almost 2 weeks now with cancer. And they keep increasing his medications, and they said he's finally starting to rest peacefully, but they believe it may be the beginning of his transition.
Well, hey, the good news is if he comes face to face with the Lord, he don't have to worry about taxes anymore. He don't have to worry about problems anymore. And I mean, ultimately, we really shouldn't worry about that stuff anyway, because worry is kind of an action that says, God, we don't trust you. So if there's anybody right now who's been worried about finances or worried about, whatever, don't worry, leave it with him, trust him, because he is certainly worried. He's worthy to be trusted. At the same time, he's kind of got all the rules nailed down, so he knows what's going to take place. So we just have to continue to trust him. So if there happens to be anybody that's going through some junk right now that doesn't have an answer and they're worried about it, don't worry. Just trust him. Give it to him. Let him handle it. That's his job. He's God. Our job is to trust him. His job is to provide.
And El Mata says to pray for the new superstars of the FWWC.
Okay.
And he also says to pray for all the babies getting ready to start back at school this month. So
yeah, my kids are already in school. They've already started. So
yeah,
it's
that
definitely school season, man. School season is kind of crazy because if you don't parent properly and you don't get them started on that new schedule for sleeping, it takes them like 2 weeks to get adjusted. So mine were already on a new schedule like 2 weeks ago, just to make sure that, that they would, be able to get up. Because, man, during the summer, the rules are pretty waiting for a loud Mustang to go by.
No, you're right, Big Daddy P. I want to take the words out of your mouth there real quick. You got to have them on that schedule early. You know what I mean? Because like, just as you were about to say, during the summer, sure. Hey, man, you guys want to stay up 10, 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock, getting to be teenage years, whatever. That's kind of one thing. But now, I'm on the same thing with my 13-year-old J Money. I told him, even last week, hey, we're on school schedule, man. And he's like, oh, man, 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock, bud. Sorry.
You'll appreciate it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, let me go ahead and pray, because we're just waiting for our daughter to come back. But matter of fact, now that I think about it, I definitely want to pray for her band, because, man, some of the percussion section needs some serious help. The timing is just, of course, it's all new for some of them too. So you got to be patient and give them time. But the good news is the football team won, even after 5 penalties. Man, they ran back. They had 2 full run touchdowns, and it both got held back for holding and what was the other one? What's that penalty when you're not in the right position?
Could be neutral zone infraction. Could be offsides.
Not offsides. I would have known that one. Anyway, either way, but they won 16-0. But let me go ahead and pray, and we'll get this thing off the charts. Father God, we thank you so much for your goodness and grace. Father, you've heard the requests that have been made. I'm so thankful that we can come to you. We don't get a busy signal. We don't get a voicemail. You're always ready to hear our prayers. Father, we're just so thankful that we can come before you tonight. And I just ask that as we go forward with this evening, we would remember your goodness and grace. For all the prayer requests we receive, Father, you know everything, especially in regards to situations.
I don't know if we were having technical difficulties there, Hardcore Hoss. I wasn't hearing Big Daddy P at the very end of that prayer.
Yeah, at the end, he kind of blanked out for a second, and then we lost his audio, and looks like we have a blank screen there now. So
okay. Well, listen, we always appreciate Big Daddy Pete each and every week when he comes onto the Wrestle Talk podcast. As far as I'm concerned, he's just as important as all of our sponsors or all of our guests or all of our people there in the comment section. So big shout out to Perry Hartman there, Big Daddy Pete. Thank you so much for coming on the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. We do appreciate it. And more especially, we appreciate all them prayers that you provide to each and everybody here joining us on Wrestle Talk podcast. But Hardcore Us, what else we got in the books here, man? We got to keep this train rolling. I know we got our guest backstage, but I got
Well,
seen some. Yeah, I seen it. I seen it. So is he ready?
He actually is not backstage yet, so I'm waiting on him. You know how that Mata guy
Oh
is.
my God, man! This
He
guy.
tends to do stuff on his own schedule. He shows up when he feels like it. You know,
I listen. I knew a competitor named Mafia Money Mayo who was a part of the FWWC one time, and he had such a hard time with this El Mataratas guy. I mean, yeah, we were on the same page for a long time, but I didn't really agree with half the stuff he was doing. Oh my God, here we go. One time, and he had such a.
I'm listening to the disrespect of the greatest campeon in the history of the FWWC right before my eyes, and I can't believe it. I feel no different than the disrespect my good friend Ray Leone got all weekend from I-70 Hot Tag in the Wrestle Talk podcast. I cannot believe that the nonsense continues, even though we both walked out of this weekend with big-time dubs. Sonny Money Mail, you and your little buddy tonight, I seen you perusing all over town, thinking you're hot stuff, but neither of you got any dubs, and the last time you got some kitty was when you guys were at the pet stop. That's right. You and your buddies got no idea what the hell you're talking about. See, it's guys like myself and Hardcore Hoss that understand what true talent is. Like the snitch. But no, of course, Sonny Money Mayo's still on the fence about whether or not he supports the snitch or not, whether or not he supports Jeremy White or not. Can't make up his mind. It all depends on how he's feeling that particular day. You see, El Jefe, the Ruthless Dawn, always picks a winner. Like when he picks himself. And he puts 100 big ones down on himself to beat the hottest up-and-coming superstar in the FWWC, a man from Georgia, a man named Ace. And you know what happened, Sonny Money, when I bet on myself? I doubled up like Nipsey Hussle, Poppy. I came out winning big. I went to Swags Casino and cashed it all in, baby. So not only did I walk out with this beautiful Warriors Heart Championship, but I also walked out a rich man. And not only that, this particular SummerSlam weekend, I unveiled the new future legend of the FWC, my disciple, my protege, Gabriel Arson. And not only that, this past weekend, you got brand new, fresh off the radar news that, boom, baby, that heel deal, La Familia's very own, is back in the FWWC. So I'm glad that you paid your money for the ticket to the FWWC pay-per-view. You and your family forked up the cash because you had no choice. Because when El Jefe is in the main event, and I'm handling business the way that I usually do, you have no choice but to fork over your hard-earned dollars from driving around town, moving around other people's stuff in a trailer all day while I'm up in VIP enjoying the spoils of being the greatest superestrella in the history of the FWWC. And you know what, Sonny Money? You ain't gotta like it. You or nobody else has got to like it. Period. Point blank. Now get your stupid questions out of the way so I can get back to drinking a real drink. Not that nonsense. Not that bull stuff that you're drinking right there. What the hell is that? Is that a Zima, Sonny Money? What the hell are you drinking over there, buddy?
What we drink is Miller Genuine Draft when we're on the Wrestle Talk podcast. And listen, I would have my Wrestle Talk podcast mug, okay? But I made the mistake of showing up to Swags Casino with my wife to have a good night, and there was some creepo in a mask, and they're talking about he's a champion and this, that, and the other, and he knocked into my mug. He broke my Wrestle Talk podcast mug. I got another one on order from Rathbun Engraving. It'll be here before I know it. It'll be here before I know it, and probably in that time, you'll probably lose that belt that's on your
Well, lucky
shoulder
for
there.
you, they take EBT. Lucky
Oh.
for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
gentlemen, I am here for a good time, not a long time. I did walk out of the main event at FWWC SummerSlam, still your Warriors Heart champion. So if you've got any interesting comments or questions, I've got about 2.5 minutes. So make it snappy.
Well, you did leave out the big news that broke last night during the event last night, and that is the return of the longest reigning world's champion, Luke Justice.
I left it out. I mean, is the world simply just not paying attention? Let me get myself set up here. There we go. Is the world just not paying attention? Did Luke Justice returning, is that something that I actively have to promote? I mean, you're talking about quite possibly the second greatest FWWC superstar of all time behind El Jefe himself. Hoss, you know it better than anybody else. As a fellow La Familia member, you know the guy's controversial even within our own locker room. But one thing that is not up for debate is the greatness and the unprecedented success that Luke Justice had here in the FWWC for an extended period of time. Not only your longest ever reigning FWWC world champion, but also one half of the longest reigning FWWC tag team champions of all time. That's right, the Law Dogs. So, for those brave enough to continue to run their mouth about El Mata being over the hill, the only thing I'm standing over, gentlemen, is your mothers and this championship. And as a matter of fact, this entire company, because whether it's Ace or Saint or some brand new superstar named Jacob X, it doesn't really matter. There's one consistent element that never changes here in the FWWC, in the world's premier fantasy wrestling promotion. That El Jefe is at the top of the mountain. I am the patriarch of this entire company. And once again, in case you guys are hard of hearing, I am indeed the greatest superstar in the history of fantasy wrestling. Now, because I know that Hoss and Sonny Money are a little overwhelmed by the presence of El Jefe, even though these are two men that I don't necessarily have any issues with. Even though Sonny Money's gotten a little mouthy since starting to hang out with the Night Owl. Let me give credit where credit is due to the members that recently moved up from the FED. For those of you who are not familiar with what we do, we are, again, the world's premier fantasy wrestling promotion. You come in, you try out, you go in the FED. You work for Hoss, you work for Oni, show us what you can do. Can you promo? Can you role play? Can you can you do stuff on video? Are you consistent? Are you dedicated? Are you creative? If you're all those things, you might be lucky enough to compete. You hear that? That's not plastic, friends. These aren't WWE titles, friends. These are real, authentic, custom-made, one-of-a-kind championships. The Hardcore Championship, the International Championship, the Warriors Heart Championship are all custom-made, one-of-a-kind championships. You won't see them anywhere else. If you're able to be successful in the Fed, you come on up and you can compete against the very best. We've got guys here that have been in the eFed game for 15 years. And even they will attest to the fact that we are indeed the greatest of all time. Now, aside from the FED superstars that recently came up, great job showing up last night, gentlemen, on a Monday for your debut match against each other. I'm very, very impressed. But also, RIP those that didn't make the cut, because we can't forget the people that need to be made an example out of. Battlecat, Voorhees, two guys that have been successful, that have been champions here, not putting in the effort. So now they got to sit out for an extended period of time in order to earn their way back into where? The main roster? No. They've got to go back to the Fed and start all over again. Because if you're going to call yourself the premier fantasy wrestling promotion on the planet, gentlemen, we are not here for numbers. It is quality over quantity. And a lot of you out there who claim to be professional wrestling fans, let's just be honest, chicos. You just can't cut the mustard. And if you think you got it in you, shoot any one of these three men a DM and we will hook you up. Because I've heard a lot about some of these other people out here, very talented in their abilities. But when you can put it all together, the role play, the making the picks, the promo, the creativity, the character work, then maybe, just maybe, you might earn an opportunity to compete against El Jefe for the grandest prize in the fantasy wrestling game, amigos. That's right, the Warriors Heart Championship. That said, I'll give you two an opportunity to give me any last thoughts or questions before I get out of here and carry on with my business, because I am indeed a very busy Don.
Sonny, you need to unmute yourself, bud.
What a
Yeah,
character
well, I
this
mean,
guy
yeah,
is.
I didn't want him to hear my true thoughts about what he just said. I mean, listen, he made some good points. You know, I know there's people out there who physically cannot get into a wrestling ring, so the FWWC is the place to be. Okay, and I hope someone out there, I hope someone out there is watching Wrestle Talk podcast tonight or a previous episode or a future episode and decides, you know what, I'm tired of this guy's mouth, and takes that championship right off of his stinking freaking shoulder. Okay, so please do yourself the favor, drop the DM, find out more about the FWWC. They are a wonderful sponsor of Wrestle Talk podcast, but this El Mataratas guy, man, someone please, anybody out there, cut a promo. Show that you can do some video. Show that you can cut a promo. Show that you have character skills. Show that you got a little bit of a mouthpiece to you. Compete on matches on Monday night, on Friday night, on pay-per-view Saturday nights. And for the love of it all, please take this title off of El Mataratas.
And if you think you're going to be one of those people that's going to knock the Don off the throne, well, go ahead and put me in single screen, because you know what's about to happen. If you're one of those ratas, if you're one of those buffoons, it's pretty simple. You're nothing more than just a dirty, stinking rata.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Listen, hey man, I'll give it to the guy. He's a great competitor there in FWWC. I mean, I think you kind of know the idea on that there, Hoss. So I'll give him credit where credit is due on that, just like with anybody else. I mean, just he brought it up. Ray Leon, the Empire, XWE, I don't agree with what they do. I don't agree with El Mataratas, but hey, man, he's a great competitor in the FWWC. So again, I hope someone, for anybody, for the love of it all, please join the FWWC. Find out about it. It is great. It is fun. It's and you'll make family out of it, not just friends. Take that belt off that guy, please.
But real quick here, we mentioned FWWC, and we wouldn't be here without them. But let's run through our sponsors again, because we'd like to thank all those great sponsors. Royal Mills Transportation, the one and only Dewan Mills, who couldn't be here tonight. Rathbun Engraving. Get your Wrestle Talk podcast mugs, just $20. Nobleman's Barber Lounge, KCMO. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeyes Designs. Get your Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers. And as mentioned before, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group.
So let me ask you there, Hardcore Hoss. I've been anticipating this. I had a great time with you tonight on High Spots. I had a great time talking with Big Daddy P, that El Mataratas guy, and whatever. But I'm here for the main event, and I hope that our guest is still hanging out in the green room. I got him the green M&Ms that he asked for. I got him the diet Shasta that he asked for. I hope he's still hanging out. I hope that El Mataratas guys didn't run him away. Do we have the owner of Tri-States Wrestling, Mr. John Rock, in the green room? Is he ready to rock and roll?
We do. We have him sitting back there ready to rock and roll. He's been sitting back there listening, and so hopefully he's enjoying what he's hearing. And, but I think it's time to get down to the meat and potatoes here. We've had the appetizers. let's get to that main course.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I'll do the honors here. Ladies and gentlemen, on the Wrestle Talk podcast, I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. But as I just stated, it is time for our guest. It is time for our main event. And this is a gentleman that I've been wanting to have on the Wrestle Talk podcast for a very, very long time. It is long overdue, but the timing is better than ever because now here he is tonight, a staple in my eyes in the Midwest professional wrestling community, the owner of Tri-States Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John E. Rock. There he is. There he is.
There it is.
There he is. John, welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast, my friend. Please believe me when I tell you it is so long overdue for you to be on here. I'm happy that you're on here and you're joining me and Hardcore Ross. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm great, man. I'm great. You were talking earlier about like going back to school fatigue, and today was just long because we got teachers coming back. So it's been a day, but I'm excited to be here.
So if you wouldn't mind, share with us. I mean, if you're open to it, if not, that's okay too. Share with us what it is that you do. I mean, yeah, we know about. We're going to talk about all that wrestling stuff, but what is it that you do there, John?
I actually am a principal at a school in Missouri. I used to teach for 11 years and math, surprisingly, and now I run a school as principal. So that's what I do during the day when I'm not wearing the tights and stuff.
There you go. There you go. So does anybody at the school, any students or anything, kind of know what your passion is there on the side?
Oh, they know. They all know. They've Googled me, so they found it. I never try to hide that stuff because just gotta own it.
No, you got to, man. You know what I mean? I have people who kind of look at me and they're like, "You run a wrestling podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, I run a wrestling podcast. I love pro wrestling." You know what I mean? It's been a passion of mine since I was a kid, man. So, no, that's really cool. I'm glad, and yeah, that back to school, it's a stressful time of year, but you know what? We make it happen. It takes a village to raise all these kids. It's teachers and parents and coaches and everybody involved. So, many blessings to everybody who's starting their school year, all these students. I've got 3 boys in my house who are about to start their school year, and they're, it's school supplies and haircuts and shoes and clothes and everything that comes along in between. So, but yeah, that's the school stuff. You know what I mean? We're here to talk about the wrestling stuff, John. So now I hate to be Mr. Basic, interview guy, but this is something I try to avoid asking because I have a lot of knowledge of my guests who come onto the show. Now, you and I, we have met each other a few times over the years at shows and so on and so forth, but I don't believe we've ever had time to really chat one-on-one. So talk to me about the origins of you with professional wrestling. Were you a fan growing up? How did all this fall in together? And what kind of led you into the road of getting into professional wrestling?
So the fandom started, I can tell you, there was an episode of SmackDown, because we didn't have cable as a kid. Episode of SmackDown, I think I was 13, and it was Rikishi wrestled somebody, and I walked through, and my sisters were watching. I was like, this is stupid. And I walked back through, and Mr. Benoit was wrestling Jeff Hardy. I was like, this is cool. And then I became a fan because I was like, well, this is cool. I watched every week to watch him. And after about a year, I was a super big fan. I'd watch any of it. So, but for about a year, it was just, I want to watch Benoit, Angle, Hardy do his stuff. And, that led to the TLC on TV back in 2001. I think it was SmackDown June, like when they did that TLC 4 or whatever.
Yep.
And just kept sparring from there. I always wanted to do wrestling, but then, when you're a kid, they're like, you gotta go to college, you gotta do degree, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. So did that, and I was 25 years old one day, and I was like, I want to do wrestling. And I happened to talk to the Iceman, because he lives 10 miles down the road from me, and he was like, hey, you gotta go train at Harley Race Wrestling Academy if you're gonna do this. So I did, and I finished up there. My debut was April 13th, 2013, so it's a little over 10 years, and then took a while to get some bookings because I didn't really know how to do all that, but really hit the ground running in 2014. And up until last year, I wrestled at least 20 to 40 times a year or more. I had a lot of matches sometimes, but then just couple years doing that. Worked around like the local area, Minnesota, Kansas, Iowa, Arkansas, Texas. Then moved to Pennsylvania for a couple of years.
My neck of the woods. I'm actually have a flight 6:30 tomorrow morning out of KCI. I'm going back home to Philly, man. So
yep, I was just there. We left Saturday morning at 8 a.m. to drive back. So because my wife's from out there. So like, yeah, moved out there for a couple of years. Worked CCW Dojo Wars on Wednesdays, BCWA on Thursdays. There was Sanctuary, all the random promotions on Fridays and Saturdays, and then so trained on Monday, Tuesday, and then wrestled 5 times a week, if not more, for a little over 2 years, I think it was. I can't even remember. It's all blurring together. Then moved back to the Midwest, and here we are, and now I run a small little company.
Yeah, no, and listen, we're going to get to that, but you said something that kind of piqued my interest there, and I don't feel like it gets talked about enough on Wrestle Talk podcast, and I don't know if it's because we haven't had a lot of students that came out of there or just whatever the case may be, but talk to me a little bit about that training at the Harley Race School. I know that his son Leland Race, who I've had the pleasure of meeting many of times and seeing him wrestle and all that, I know he's taking care of business there since we unfortunately lost Harley a couple of years back. But I know around that time, Harley was probably still around a little bit, still helping run the business a little bit. And so, talk to me about the training there at Harley Race Wrestling School and maybe even a bit of your dealings there with Harley.
So my first day was, I believe it was August 8th of 2012. I went in and did beginners camp on Saturday. And all that day it was supposed to be like 5 of us, but there only be 2 of us. And there was like 4 people training. There was, I'm trying to remember everybody's name. Chris Wallace was there, former WWE tag champion. At the time, Jason Jones, but Leland Race was there before he like revealed that he was Harley's son. Then there was Stacey O'Brien. Yep. And somebody else was there. So there was 4 trainers, and Harley was there as well. So there was 5 people watching the 2 of us. So there was no slacking off, and it was just free squats, push-ups, lots of conditioning. It wasn't about what shape you were in. It was just to prove that you would quit because they didn't want to invest time in you if you were going to quit after a day or 2. So super, I think we started at 8 a.m., had an hour for lunch. We got down at like 5 p.m. And we were moving the whole time. Like it was, I woke up the next day and I couldn't get out of bed. I kid you, I did this little number for a while and rolled out, landed on my feet. It was awful. It's still summer because I could not have taught on Monday like that. But then going back, there was a lot of conditioning, and it was just like people would say basic, but it was very, very fundamental. There are things that are drilled in my head that I've been helping train some guys recently, and I'm like trying to explain to them. But I can't because we did it so many times that it's just built in. Like you come out of there and you like it was called Harley guy. Like if you met somebody and you're like, oh, I was a Harley guy, you were there. Like it was 100%. They knew what you could do because you've been a Harley guy. Like you didn't graduate from Harley Race unless you knew what you're doing.
Shout out to Travis here joining in. Consider him a friend of mine. Travis says he loved the beginners camp there at WLW at World League Wrestling, affiliated with the Harley Race School there. And you talk about Harley guys, and for all of our fans tuning in tonight, there's been a lot of Harley guys who went up and made a name for themselves and got to the big time. You're talking Joe Henning, who was Curtis Axel in WWE. You talk former WWF Tag Team Champion Trevor Murdoch, who's still prominent in this area. I mean, there's been so many guys who came out of Harley Racing School. And one of my favorite all-time guys is Derek Stone. And I know Derek Stone was a big-time Harley guy. And, there's been so many names. So, and now, correct me if I'm wrong here, John, they still do the training down there at WLW, correct?
Yeah, there's, like, WLW is still going strong. It seems to be more centralized in that area. Like, they ran an event in Kansas City, I forget when, last year. They were in St. Joseph in October last year. Yep. So they still come up to the Kansas City area. They no longer have that staple event at Richmond, or haven't had it in a year or 2. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm sure that's venue issues. But they still going strong. They're running events all the time. I catch them online when I can. I watch their shows. Like I haven't been there in a long time, but they're still going strong. They got a lot of good young talent. Like that's something you watch a Harley show. If you like good wrestling, you can just turn it on and just enjoy, because there's nothing going to happen that's going to make you go, oh, that's stupid. You're just going to enjoy it. It's great. I love those shows.
I've been to probably 3 or 4 WLW shows, and if I can say that 5 times fast, I've enjoyed every single one. You know what I mean? And I believe the last one I went to was the event up there in Richmond, and they brought in Hall of Famer Ron Simmons, man, and that was an opportunity to meet Ron Simmons. And I know WLW likes to do those type of things and bring in a prominent name like that, and everybody comes in for the name. But then while they're sitting there, they're going, wow, these guys are actually putting on a good professional wrestling show. They're telling a story. It's a good guy versus a bad guy. It's overcoming things in the show. You know what I mean? It's not sloppy. It's not all over the place. These guys are conditioned. These guys are pros, man. So big shout out to WLW. Big shout out to everybody over there. Harley guys, so on and so forth. But as we kind of continue to move on here, John, so the first time that I actually seen you was at Metro Pro Wrestling. Now that is a special place near and dear to my heart, okay? Big shout out to Chris Goff. Chris, you know I tell it to you about once or twice a year when I talk to you, and I speak for probably half these wrestling fans in the Kansas City area. We miss Metro, bro. We really do. We miss the Turner Rec Center. That was a special place in my heart because, I grew up out in Philly. So I grew up going to ECW shows, especially in the summer of '97. And so that atmosphere and that aroma, that smell, that vibe of the bingo hall in South Philly, I had the same type of feeling going into Metro Pro, man. And so again, yeah, that was the first time I seen Johnny Rock at Metro Pro. And maybe you were even angry, Dad, there once or twice.
No, I never was. I never was myself there. But I did enjoy the alter ego that I played, and Metro was awesome. Like I was there, and shout out to Goff. He didn't have to book me, but he's like, "Hey, you're here. Do you want to wrestle?" I did, and got plenty of opportunities from that. Got great footage to use to spiral. That got me booked a lot of places. Got to wrestle Mark Sterling there. Got to wrestle Mike Seidel there. I don't even remember everybody else. Warhorse, like a long time ago.
Yeah.
First match.
That's before the face paint Warhorse, right?
Yeah, that was back when it was Jake Parnell. I believe that was January of 2015. It's whatever show that Christopher Daniels was there wrestling Wyatt.
Okay.
Daniels.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was in attendance for that. Yeah, man. And I've got to see you wrestle around, and I mainly keep it in the Kansas City area because my wife starts to want to cut off my toes and fingers when I tell her I'm traveling outside the Kansas City metro to go to a wrestling show. That's a different time for a different story, but I've seen you around here plenty of full. And now I'm more excited because, I know you're still active in the ring, correct, John?
Yeah, I broke my ankle last October, so I got 15 screws in it. So I've only wrestled once since then, but I'll be more active. I'll be wrestling again August 26th, and then moving on forward, probably about 15 to 25 times a year. Probably won't go past that. Maybe every other weekend. Don't really want to go past that anymore.
Hey, and if you could cap yourself and limit yourself and be happy with that, man, then that's a great thing. You know what I mean? I mean, some guys want to do it every single weekend. I know guys who primarily, I know a couple guys on the East Coast who they chase after bookings, man. And I'm just like, golly, your bump card, you're gonna kill yourself there, buddy. You know what I mean? Just slow it down. But for you to be able to say, hey, I'm good with 15, 20 times a year and still be happy with what you're getting out of the professional wrestling business, that's absolutely great. Now, before I move on to my next question, I want to pass to my co-host here because I just been rambling like a teenage girl here. So, Hardcore Hoss, do you got anything in mind over there you like to ask our guest for the evening?
Well, I've heard about your wrestling career and I've heard about owning, but what made you want to decide that you wanted to switch gears from being a wrestler to owning your own organization?
So that comes with as a wrestler, there's always frustrations with things, as any employee has. So you have frustrations with stuff, and I happen to be venting to a friend like most wrestlers do. That happens if you're around wrestlers, just like any other job. The employees will rant about the boss and the situation in the company and why don't they do this and this. It's so easy. And a great friend of mine, Franco Varga, shout out to him, he said, then why don't you do it? And I said, okay, cool. And got a show together, ran it. Like, thanks to Scott Easy at New Breed for helping me put that together. And that was 4 years ago, May 18th of 2019 at Belton High School or Middle School. And ran it. And I was like, never again. And then a couple years later, I was again had that attitude of like, why are people doing this? This is like, you shouldn't be doing this. You should do it this way. And I happened to talk to my buddy Franco, and he's like, listen, man, if you're going to talk like that, you got to run their show. And so I did. And then I caught the bug of like, I like doing this. I like growing this stuff. So we started down a road, got the idea of Tri-States Wrestling. My wife is from the Tri-State area out in Philly. So Tri-States Wrestling, you know, we got Kansas, we got Iowa, we got Missouri, like that little, it's not a Tri-State area truly, but that sort of stuff. I love wrestling. So I was like, let's do it. And we launched last year with a 4-day tour. And we've stopped since then. We have our off and ons because like I don't run like most people do. I have a different style. Danny Duggan up in Canada, he runs tours, like those 20, 30-day tours.
Yes, he does.
Longest one I was ever on was 26 days, and I did 22 of them, I think it was. 21.
God bless you, Johnny. Right? God bless you, Johnny.
Which, yeah, so like those things were great, and I'm like, hey, I like that model, so let's do it my way, which is do multiple shows in a row rather than do it once a month. So then we're doing it our way. So a couple of us got to, like, it's not just me. There's a couple people that are like, hey, let me help. So, and we're doing it, and it's pretty awesome so far.
And it really is, because, you know, that, you know, me being the wrestling nerd that I am, you know, to see Tri-States Wrestling come into full effect. And I was like, wow, what is this? And then I see that, hey, you're running Chillicothe and you're running the town over 30, 20 miles down the next day, and you're running this town the next day. And I'm just like, I was talking to Night Owl on the phone. I was just like, what is this? Is this guy a mad scientist? What is he doing? Like, you know, because listen, John, you know how it is, especially in the Kansas City area. We got 2, 3, 4 promotions, and, you know, once a month and a half, then once 2 months. And that's what we're kind of used to, man. So for what you were doing, again, to do this mini tour is so unique. It's so unique, man. And I'm glad you're doing it. You know what I mean? Because I will always champion for different. Whether it works or not, I'm still going to champion for something different, because I want to give everybody a fighting chance. You know what I mean? And I kind of approach that way with life. Like, if it's different, I want to know what's it taste like, smell like, so on and so forth. And, you know, for you to do that tour, you know, it seemed like it was pretty successful. And I know along the way during that tour, you were teaming with a couple animal places and doing donations and so on and so forth, correct?
So last year, the first tour we launched, we didn't have that yet, that partnership. We started partnering last December. So shows 1 through 4, which was last June, didn't have any partners for animals shelters. Then last December, we partnered with the Albany Animal Shelter, and we partnered with them for 3 shows. Our tournament, the Crown Champion in April, was also partnered with them. The upcoming event in Breckenridge is partnered with the Against All Odds Animal Rescue, because as we were working on stuff, we're like, how do we be different? How do we do this? And I teach full time, you know, work in a school, and we have jobs, and we're like, how can we give back to the community? Because I love small towns, and like, you know, I come from a town, Mooresville, Missouri. It says 82 on the city limit sign. It ain't 82. So there's like 5 people in town. There's no post office, no gas station, no soda machine. There's a stop sign. Our main street's gravel. So small town USA. So like, let's run events there. Let's help the local community. Animal shelters. Like, everybody loves a dog. So let's help the dogs, which helps us too, because people that want to go to a wrestling show then get that satisfaction. You know, that show's 60 miles up the road. It's a little bit out of KC. I may not go to it, but you know, I can help a dog. So they'll go. And that helps us, and that helps them. And it's just a symbiosis thing. So like, all our shows going forward, our upcoming tour in October, all that money is going to be split up at the end of the profits and get split evenly between all the animal shelters, like along the way, because that's what we've made our mission. We're not a nonprofit. That's not our classification, but we're just donating all the profits we make along the way, because, you know, it's just a good thing. Like, you know, you get out and you get in. It's a win-win.
It is yep, there you go. It is a win-win. Listen, I have 3 dogs myself in this house, okay? They're like my children, all right? Sometimes I rather hold them than put my kids away. I'm saying, get out of here. I'm holding a dog right now, you know. But I am a big dog guy. I'm a big dog lover. But, I want to continue with this talking Tri-States, and I kind of want to talk about the roster a little bit here. Your roster is very intriguing. You bring in, and the guy you mentioned in an interview, and a guy I follow very closely, and hopefully, fingers crossed, one day we can get him on the Wrestle Talk podcast. But Mr. Franco Vega himself, Franco Vargas, sorry, he this man is literally all over the world, Japan, Germany. I mean, this man is getting booked, and killing it in the wrestling world. Will we see him again in Tri-States Wrestling? And you're talking your tour in October. Are we going to see Franco back in the Midwest?
Well, Franco's going to be here. The next show is August 26th in Breckenridge, Missouri, another small town. I think it's the 4th smallest school district in the state of Missouri, actually. And Franco will be there challenging the Iceman for the Tri-States Wrestling Championship. And then he will be back for the tour. It's been shortened to 4 days. We need to put that press release out because we unfortunately lost a venue. But so he'll be there for all 4 days there. And we're playing his 2 shows in December, and he's planning on being there. So all the Tri-States events coming up in 2023, Franco Vargas is supposed to be there, which is awesome because, as you mentioned, he's not in the Midwest for anybody else. So if you want to see Franco, you have to come to our company, which adds that appeal. I love all wrestling, but having that little bit of, well, if I want to see this guy, I have to go there.
That's
right. A little bit of that I love because, as you said, he just got back from Japan. He's got UK stuff. Like, he's usually in the UK in February and March, like Australia. I know for a time, Pakistan, I think it was Pakistan was trying to get him. I don't know if he ever went there.
Jeez.
I know. Like, a huge star. Like, he gets to march to the beat of his own drum, and he chooses to come in to Missouri. Like, I've had people, it's so funny. We were in, trying to remember which one it was, Macon last December. Somebody came up to him and was like, "Why are you here?" They didn't know who he was. They Googled him, like, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" He was like, "Hey, man, like, don't sleep on this." So that was, right. It's been awesome.
Right. Well, there's another guy that I really want to talk about, and I don't feel like he gets talked about enough, but I know he's poked his head around there in Tri-States Wrestling. I'll tell you this, John. When I take my young kids to the wrestling show and he's there, they're scared of this guy. All right, and I'm talking about the one and only Dr. Ison. John, what are you doing, man? Why are we? Listen, he's scaring the kids out there. He's scaring my wife. He's got that big needle half the time. I don't know what to do about this guy, man. I mean, should I be that scared of Dr. Ison, or is he just that? I mean, I think it's been proven he is that good of a competitor in the wrestling ring, but is it worth the, potential lawsuit that he's going to get somebody with that needle? He's going to get a kid with that needle? Talk to me a little bit about Dr. Ison there.
I don't know what's going on in the shows you're going to, but at our shows, Dr. Ison is like, everybody loves him. They're lining up for the shots. They're like slapping hands. They're thanking him for saving their lives and all that stuff. Like, so like where I'm at, from my perspective, it's great because people come to see the doctor. So I think that's just, that might just be the environment of Kansas. Maybe that smog makes it a little crazy and somebody's perception's off, or maybe I
caught him on a bad day. Who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe. We got somebody in the comment section there. Hopefully, I wish I could see their name, but I can't. It just says Facebook user, but it says that needle is just for you, Sonny. Listen, I'm deadly scared of needles. Okay, I got 2 tattoos. My wife's got a lot more. I would love to have tattoos without the needle process. Okay, I don't do needles. And again, I think maybe I just called Dr. Ison on a bad day. Maybe he forgot, something out of his doctor bag when he showed up to the wrestling. I don't know, but I was scared. I was scared of the guy.
I have a feeling. I heard he's going to be there in December, so maybe you should come check it out and meet him then. Because for some reason, in Tri-States, he seems to get along with people really well. Like, and there was that thing. He was in the tournament. He won his match, but then he got injured. He got attacked afterwards by Fowler and Luke Langley, so he had to give up his win and didn't get to move on in the tournament. He hasn't returned yet, so like, dude's in line for a title shot if he wins a couple matches. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you just spoke a couple names there also with Fowler and Luke Langley. And, sometimes I like what Luke does and sometimes I don't like what Luke does. I'm not a fan of what Luke does, but I will always say, and I just talked about this before you came on, Johnny Rock, with FWWC and El Matarata, whether I like you or not, if you're a hell of a competitor, I give you where your respect is due. And listen, when it comes to Luke Langley, and I know I've said this plenty of times before here on Wrestle Talk Podcast, respect is due for that gentleman right there. All right. Well, again, whether I'm booing him or cheering him, he's one hell of a professional wrestler when he steps inside that wrestling ring. So, that's somebody that will continue to be in Tri-States wrestling there, John.
Yeah, he's one of our featured acts. He's featured on the upcoming tour. Like, anytime Luke is able to come in because he stays busy, he travels all over. Like, he's more of a Midwest guy versus being national. Although, if he wanted to be, he could be national. Like, that's It's very like people, that tends up happening. People say, "Oh, they're the best in the Midwest. They're the best." Like, he worked Franco Varga in St. Joseph last year. I believe it was June 10th, and Varga walked away going, "That guy can compete anywhere. He should be everywhere. He should be on TV." So that's the biggest compliment you can get. Somebody that wrestles all over the world going, "That guy I could wrestle that guy in UK and it would just, okay, cool. He belongs here." So that's a huge shout out to him.
No, and it is. And you know what? And let me say this straight up as a straight up shoot. And this isn't discredit anybody else. And I have a lot of friends in this wrestling business. I have a lot of friends in the Kansas City area, but I don't care. I hope it, whether it hurts their feelings or not. Luke Langley is my favorite professional wrestler in the Kansas City area, flat out. All right. And the reason being is because I know when that bell rings, he's going to put on a hell of a wrestling match. And that's what I paid to come and see as a professional wrestling match. You know what I mean? And he delivers each and every single time. You know what I mean? But so let me ask you this, John. Is there anybody else that you would like to highlight maybe in Tri-States wrestling? Is there anybody that piques your interest? Is there anybody that's maybe underrated that people aren't talking about?
Well, the one that like always cracks me up, and it does, is somebody that's seen the Iceman anywhere else comes to Tri-States and they walk away going, "Wow, like, is there a fire under him?" Because last December he wrestled 2 Christmas street fights, and wrestlers in the back were going, "What's going on?" Like, basically, did you find a different version of him, like a different reality? Because he is on a different level in the Tri-States ring. It is amazing. He has definitely earned everything. Because people be like, "Oh, this and this," and I'm like, dude is amazing in a ring in Tri-States. And I've seen him compete at New Breed and other places, and he's good. But if you haven't seen him in a Tri-States match, like, I gotta say, that man puts on his working boots in that. Like, not that he doesn't everywhere else, but like, there's good and there's really good, and that's what he does at Tri-States. So there's Iceman. Let's see, we have Brandon Juarez is coming in, like, for the upcoming show. The classic Warren Adams, like, I don't see him a lot around places. I've seen him at 3X, but that's about it as far as like this area. He's another one, like, he's pretty good. But I think the cool thing about Tri-States is we have bigger names that you could see around the world, but they also are mixing up with the local guys, like Blair Dior, Tobias Storm, like Burt Candy. I love Burt Candy.
I know. Hey, listen, I have a personal, I had the luxury of announcing Burt Candy at a wrestling show one time, and I was just floored away with who Burt Candy is. And I was like, "Yo, this guy is it, man." Big shout out to Burt Candy.
It's funny. Like, I've told Burt this. Like, first time I saw him, I was like, "What?"
And then, that's like, the initial reaction. That's the initial reaction.
That was my initial reaction. And then, like, funny thing is, Burt Candy worked the Tri-State show, and my wife walked away going, "That guy." And she is like, that's her favorite wrestler in Tri-States wrestling, so he keeps coming back, and he's great. Like, but the first time I was like, "What is this?" And then I'm like, "This is awesome." So yeah, huge shout out to Burt on that, because he won me over. I wasn't initially like impressed with him. I was like, "This guy's fantastic." So there's a lot of guys on that, and like, we keep bringing people in. We're always going to have somebody different that you haven't seen before. Like, we had Ethan Everhart at Mooresville, and I don't think he's wrestled in Missouri before. Maybe he had, and I missed it. Like, Niles Planquet showed up out of nowhere, and he hadn't wrestled in this area for a while. And just like, so that's one of the cool things about Tri-State show is people just that you don't expect to see will be there. you're gonna have somebody from out of town, like the upcoming tour. Maybe you plan on talking about that later, but Simon Gotch will be there. He hasn't wrestled in Missouri in 11 years.
Wow, yeah.
When they came through. But I don't think, because I think his last show for WLW was Camden, Missouri in April of, I think that was it. Or maybe it was one after that. But it was April or May, I think, in 2012 was his last match in Missouri in the independents.
Right. And now, correct me if I'm wrong here. Didn't Simon Gotch even maybe make an appearance once or twice at Metro Pro Wrestling?
He did.
Yeah.
Actually. He wrestled. The match I remember was him versus the Iceman back when the dance challenge was a thing.
Yeah.
As Ryan Drago. That's what he was known as.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Listen, you said his name a couple of times, and I got to say it. And I'm speaking behalf on one of my co-hosts here, Renee, the Night Owl Martinez. Me and Renee, we constitute ourselves as part of the Icicles. Okay, we're part of the Icicles. I am a 100% Iceman fan, all right? I love me the shit out of some Iceman. Listen, if you don't want to promote anybody else on the card, if the card just says live professional wrestling, but it says Iceman on there, I'm going to that show, all right? I love me the hell out of some Iceman. And, he's been doing it for a while, and he's still, as you just said, I haven't got the opportunity to see him in Tri-States Wrestling yet, and that's shame on me. I need to. But everywhere else I've seen him in the Midwest, man. My man's money, bro. I love me the hell out of some Iceman.
Yeah, he's very good. Like, it was funny. He was talking to me. He's like, "Hey, I really want to work Varga at some point." I was like, "Okay," and then Varga had no idea how old Iceman was, and he told him. He's like, "Wait, no," and he called me to verify. He's like, "This can't be." I'm like, "Nah, you still got to do it," but like. He's timeless. Like, you see a picture of Iceman. He doesn't look that much different than he did when he started, like 22. Yeah. I can't remember if he started in 01 or 2000, but he's been around for over 20 years, which is amazing longevity. Because, like, I'm at 10 and I'm like, I'm pretty much, like I said, 15, 20 matches a year, going to dial it down if that. Mainly stay at Tri-States and work for a couple friends, like, at their companies. Whereas he's just, like, I saw his post today. He was looking for dates. He was like, "Hey, anybody got some shows?" I think it was like September 23rd, September 9th, and forget the other one. But I was like, that's awesome. He's still out there, which is great.
Yeah, and listen, I try to share those posts. I'll give you a little tidbit here. A young 17-year-old Sonny Money Mayo found his way in a locker room because I thought I wanted to try to put my hand into this business, in which I had no business doing, and I realized that very quickly and got away from it. Decided that I'll be on this side of the guardrail instead of that side of the guardrail. But back in 2003, I was in a locker room, and there was one Mr. Iceman back there who was very cool to me, you know what I mean? And that's the type of things that I remember, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, like you said, I mean, for him to still be doing it that long and still going out and looking for dates, nothing but love to the Iceman from the Wrestle Talk podcast. I will always share, that he's looking for a booking, hoping that a promoter sees it and books the Iceman, not just in the Midwest, but bring that man out to the East, West Coast, bring him down south. The Iceman deserves it out of everybody else. But you just spoke about something there, John, and I know we're keeping it rolling here, but this tour, you got these tours coming up, man. I want to know about these tours. Talk to me about these tours coming up. As you mentioned, they're kind of in the smaller towns. You're doing a little bit of drive out of KC, but from the poster you put together to the promotion you do with it, to bringing in big stars like Franco, to bringing in known people like Luke Langley. Talk to me about these tours that you got coming up here, and give me a little bit of dates and where they're at, so people know where to go and what to do and so on and so forth.
So our next show is August 26th in Breckenridge, Missouri, which is like 25 minutes from Cameron, Missouri. It's between Cameron and Chillicothe. Very small school. It's awesome. Like, they're welcoming us in. And it's not that far from my house, which is even better. So we're doing that on the 26th. Then after that, our tour kicks off October. Sorry about that.
All good.
October 5th, we're going to start in Palmyra, Missouri. And then October 6th, we'll be in Chillicothe. Then October 7th, we'll be in St. Joseph, Missouri. And October 8th, we're going to be in Gladstone area. So, like, that's that's a plan. Like, there's been a few issues down there, but we're not stopping. We got 3 backup venues, so we have a few glitches, but which happens with those sort of things. One of the reasons people don't like doing tours, 4 towns in 4 days. You have to set up the ring, you have to tear down the ring, you have to transport it. Things go wrong, and there's a reason why we're the only company besides WWE to have run 4 shows in 4 days in 4 different towns since the Funks tour in 2001. A lot of people have done 3. There was a company like Control Your Narrative, like, you know, everybody promotes that. They were going to do a 4-day tour, but the logistics just get to you sometimes, and they weren't able to do their 4 shows in 4 days in 4 different towns, which it's not easy. I've obviously pulled all my hair out over it, but it's great because there's that little bit of, there's ideally going to be an hour drive at most between towns, so you could start off on night 1, then go to night 2, and then if you get pulled in, well, then it's only another half an hour down the road. Like, our last couple are this. You're in Chillicothe. It's an hour drive to St. Joe. It's about an hour 15 to Gladstone. So if you enjoy Chillicothe, then the next day, hey, I'm going to St. Joe. And then I enjoyed that too, so I can go down to Gladstone, catch the matinee there. So all of that stuff is one of the goals, so people can, because we don't have TV, and we don't really do that sort of stuff. But that's how they did it back in the day, the 1970s, 80s, which you saw a show and you had to go to the next one because there was a story. But you didn't have to, remember. That's one of the things, and it's not against anybody, but I don't like about modern independent wrestling is I have to remember something that happened a month ago or 6 weeks ago.
Right.
This thing vies for my attention all day, every day. I don't have a great memory. So fighting for that, it's really easy when it's day after day after day. And then you can follow these simple stories, keep up with it, see it. We try to be affordable in small towns because, everybody's pinching their dollars these days. I think we do a great job with that. We always get compliments on that stuff. So, and our big stars for the tour, Franco Varga, Simon Gotch, our champion, the Iceman, will be there. The tag team champions, the Math Magician and Fajita Taker will be there. We're bringing in the Tonys, like Anthony Bennett, former Cruiserweight Classic competitor.
Okay.
He competed against Nice, and his tag team partner will be there.
Nice.
And that guy's got individual titles all over, but they're going to come in as a tag team. Tobias Storm, Blair Dior, Burt Candy, Rex Amadeus, Jeremy White will be there for a few days, trying to get Niles Planquet for a day or 2, hopefully. But,
Come on, Niles. Come on, Niles. I know you watch.
We got everybody's favorite Stormy Renee is coming in.
Yes. That's my 6-year-old son's favorite wrestler. So
I can't understand why. But Shooter Shy Lynn will be there for a few dates. So we got all these people, which one of the things, big shout out, the Strangler Roy Lewis, is just, they're such good people too.
Yeah.
It's such a good time. That's one of the things when we started building the company was we wanted it to be enjoyable and not hate our lives and stuff. We have great referees. We got Vito. We got Chris Ward as our referees. Brandon from Newbury. All those guys are fantastic refs. We used, now I'm blanking. Can't remember her name. The girl from Harley's, the ref there. Somebody's gonna be like, "You idiot," but I don't remember her name. She came in for us last year, did a fantastic job. We just got great people everywhere. So, and then in December we got Jay Fowler coming back in. We got Luke Langley, again. So the December shows, they're gonna be in Bethany, and we haven't closed on the last date. Still waiting to sign the contract. It's supposed to be Maryville, Missouri, but we'll see. It might end up being Trenton or somewhere. Again, about an hour away.
Right.
Show to the next. So you can go to one. Hey, I like this. Let's go tomorrow. So
Yep. Such a unique thing you're doing there, Johnny Rock, and something that no one else in the Midwest is doing. Something I don't really know in the USA.
Nobody's doing it.
Yeah. So for you to do that, and you've done it once, and we've had success, and we're getting animal places involved and donations and everything, and you've got a great roster of talent, man. That's flat out awesome, dude. It really is. It really is. Now, listen, again, I keep jabbering. I want to let my co-host get one more question. I've got one more question. So I'm going to let him get his question. I'm going to get a question. And then my question to you right now is, after we're done those questions, are you ready to face me in the game show challenge, my friend?
Sure. I'm down for almost anything. Except for
man.
eating sauerkraut. I will not do that. No.
We won't do that. But maybe, I don't know what the game show challenge is. Maybe it'll be the best of fajita taker and math magician matches. Maybe it'll be some other things. I don't know. We'll find out. But Hardcore Hoss, do you got any closing questions, closing thoughts on our interview with Johnny Rock tonight here on Wrestle Talk?
Yeah, you talk about the tours and stuff that you guys do. And you mentioned that when you became an owner, it was basically that, you looked at it and said you wanted to do your own thing and felt that you could do a little bit better than what was already being done. What is there anything that, as being an owner or booking these tours, that you feel that originally you may have known that a booker had to do, or even if you didn't know a booker had to do, then you got into it and then you're going, what the hell? What did I get myself into? Why did I do this? What is the hardest part about it?
I might have to take a second on that. I think there's a lot of things that pop up you think would be easy. The hardest for me personally is I don't view myself as a leader, and I don't mean that as I run a school and stuff, and I've taught for a long time, so obviously being in charge of people is not a problem, but I'm more of I'm not creative. So, and I mean that as any idea you see me have is a piecemeal of things that are put together. There's a little bit from here, here, and here, and here, and here together, and I mix it in one pot, but I don't come up with the individual ingredients. I'm just going, hey, let's put these three things together and see what happens. And people are like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, I stole that. So I struggle with getting sponsorships. That's my biggest weakness. Will always be that side of it. I can go talk to people all day, every day. I can put together nice packets and presentations, but at the end of the day, I'm not a salesman. There are great salesmen in wrestling. Nothing near Derek Teeter is an amazing salesman. He does it as career.
Shit, yeah, he is.
Salesman out there. That's not me. So that's my biggest struggle on the hardest thing for me is getting sponsors to help run those events. So a lot of it is bootstrapped. Shout out to Uber and Lyft for helping provide the opportunity for bootstrapping, because if it wasn't for my car and them, some of those events wouldn't have happened, got off the ground. So, but I'm okay with that because that's just I was raised with philosophy. You just work hard. If you're not successful, you just keep working. And I can go without some sleep. I can drive my car all night, which, I'm not saying go do that, but to get my dream to happen, I don't know if it's a dream to run a wrestling company, to be honest with you, but it's a dream to my town, Mooresville, Missouri, hadn't had a live event in it at all in 10 years. Besides, they do a little bicycle rally. And I miss when I was a kid, we'd go up there and we'd just see neighbors talking, and there's no longer events in that town, that area, to where just two people haven't seen each other in a while because they live 5 miles down the road, get together and just chat. And for 2 years in a row, we've had an outdoor show there, free will donation. And I see people that have no interest in wrestling at all show up, buy a hot dog, sit next to each other and talk for 2 hours and ignore what's going on in the ring. Right. But it's still cool that we can create that. So the biggest challenge for me is sponsorships. The second biggest challenge is getting venues in towns that people don't run, because there's usually a reason people don't run in those towns. Like Palmyra, love those guys, but it was a challenge to get into that venue. So once you're in, you do a good job. It's great, but it takes a while. So, or as my nephew would say, it takes a while. He's 4. Those are the biggest challenges, is getting venues and getting sponsors. The other stuff, finding wrestlers that want to work for you, Dr. Eisen and Travis, myself, there's several people involved. Franco, we have good reputations. We don't hurt people or anything like that. So people know that, hey, if you come in, you're going to be treated well. So, and you're going to have fun, you're going to do a good job. And then all it took was a couple good shows, and then people are like, oh, so finding talent's not hard. It really isn't. Putting up flyers and all that stuff's not hard. All that's the easy part. Finding creative people to design flyers and stuff. That's not hard. The hardest part is getting a venue and getting some startup cash for the event. That's really it.
And I can even kind of speak on that because I got to sit next to again our co-host Renee the Night Owl Martinez. He dipped his toe a little bit into the promoting and he helped run 3 or 4 shows. And I sat right next to him through tireless nights of finding a venue, trying to book somebody. Then another company saying, well, why are you booking this weekend when we booked this weekend? And, and just it's again, John, I would probably have the similar hairstyle to you if I booked my own wrestling company, because from what I seen him do, I was just like, and I was going into it naive. I was like, man, they can't be that hard. We're going to find a building. You and I are loudmouth wrestling fans. We know these wrestlers around here. They'll come freaking to our show. They'll show up. We'll throw up a couple flyers. No problem. And by the second day, I was just like, "Oh hell no, bro!" I was like, "This is all you. You have fun at this. I'll ring announce," and I did. I ring announced for him. And that was about as much as I did. I was like, "I'm not doing that no more." You know what I mean? And it's my best. He's my best friend, and I seen what the hell he went through, and I think he did it 3 shows, and he was like, "Nope, I'm done. That's it. That's it." All right, so here's the deal, John Rock. This is how we're gonna kind of finish this interview out. Okay. I got one more important, very, very, very important question for you. We're going to smack this game show challenge. Hopefully, I continue my winning streak against you. I know you're a competitor. You're a Harley guy, so it's going to be really tough. And then after that game show challenge is done, I want you to be able to throw out all your social media. I want you to throw out all the social media about Tri-States Wrestling. I want you to pimp, promote, and say anything you want to say to get your name out there, anybody else's name out there, and Tri-States Wrestling name out there, okay? Okay. So here's my question. And you've mentioned this. You lived in Pennsylvania. Your wife is from that side of the country, the Philly Tri-States area. I want you to explain to me right now, and this is kind of a bit of a running gag and a running joke here on Wrestle Talk, but it is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to put this theory to test tomorrow morning when I go to KCI, get on that airplane, and go to Philadelphia. I want you to explain to me why Wawa is so much better than Quick Trip every day out of the week, twice on Sunday.
Man, why you gotta go with Wawa? Go with Sheets, man. That's easy.
Bullshit, bullshit. Sheets has
better burgers.
Wawa is the drizzling shit. Don't you talk to me about Sheets.
Hey, it's my turn to talk at this time. Listen, Sheets has better burgers. Wawa just got fries, and they're fire, man. Like they're bussing. But
no.
Sheets' burger's better. Now, as far as Wawa versus Quick Trip, I mean, you got to go with the original versus the ripoff. Let's be honest. Wawa's the original. Like, Quick Trip's a gas station first, then a restaurant. You go out to the East Coast, you find Wawa's without gas. Yep. Tell me one Quick Trip that exists here that does not have gasoline. There ain't one.
None.
It's a gas station.
No.
Wawa is like Buc-ee's. It is built around the in-store experience, the food and all that. Quick Trip is built around gasoline and great customer service, fantastic customer service.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I do believe Sheets has better food.
See, that's absolute bullshit, John. I'm sorry to say that. And listen, I got to experience Buc-ee's last year for the first time myself. Buc-ee's, Wawa's kind of like, it's inching there, man. Buc-ee's is something else. That was a trip down to Texas going to Galveston with my family, and I told them this year, we almost went again this past summer. I said, man, we don't even got to go all the way to Galveston. We just go to North Texas to Buc-ee's and, turn around, come home. I'd be a happy camper, you know what I mean? So Buc-ee's is where it's at. But Sheets, nah, man, I'm sorry. This was such a great interview, and you just poo-pooed it by saying Sheets, dude. You know what? With that being said, John Rock, all right, Mr. Harley guy himself, Mr. Tri-States Wrestling, I tell you what, I challenge you to a game show challenge. Hardcore Ross, you ready to hit this music? You ready? Got some questions for us here? Because he said Sheets, and I'm freaking heated now.
I do have the questions, but I have one question for you first, Sonny.
Well, go ahead.
Before I officiate this game show challenge, what you got with his hairdo?
Oh, nothing. Oh, well, listen, it ain't me, bro. I mean, the Night Owl rocks it. Johnny Rock rocks it. Hoss rock. It just ain't. Listen, I got a bit of a crooked nose. I've broken my nose 6 times. That's a shoot. The teeth ain't the best. A little bit of a drifting eye sometimes. So I got the hair. That's what I got going on. That's my go-to is the hair. You know what I mean? I got a nice full head of hair. Even though the wife sometimes she'll tell me, she'll be like, "Listen, you got a bit of a bald spot." I'm like, "Fucking where?" So I got the hair, bro. That's my gimmick. All right, leave me
All
alone.
right.
Leave me alone, boss. Leave me alone.
I just wanted to check because if you were putting down the hair, then I was going to say there's no point in the challenge because he wins automatically.
No, man. Yo, Baldy's can rock it, bro. It's not me. I'd probably look like powder or something. I don't know.
All right, let's go ahead and hit this game show challenge music here. All right. Welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contestant is scheduled for the best of 2 out of 3 falls. Our contestants are John Rock and Wrestle Talk Podcast's very own Sonny Money Mayo. In a few minutes, I will ask you 3 questions about a particular professional wrestling topic. Whenever you think you know the answer to the question, shout out the answer. The first person to win 2 out of 3 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast game show challenge category is Big Bad John. I will give you information on 3 pro wrestlers with the first name John. Once again, when you think you know the wrestler that I'm talking about, please shout out the answer. If you are wrong, you can shout out multiple times. Just because you get one wrong doesn't mean you're out. Are the rules understood, gentlemen?
I believe so. Right.
All right. So, question number 1. The professional wrestler began his career by winning the 3rd season of Tough Enough. He went
John
on
Morrison,
to...
Johnny Nitro.
John Morrison is correct.
Shit. Man, come on. I wasn't ready for that. He could have called him Johnny Tough Enough. Man,
Johnny
whatever.
Impact. Like, come
Johnny
on.
Impact, Johnny Nitro, Johnny, whatever. Yeah.
I don't remember. Monday night. There was another one he went by. I can't remember. He had so many.
Eminem, right? Miz and Morrison.
Yeah.
Johnny no, that wasn't him. Never mind. Okay, anyway. The late pro wrestler was a part of a tag team alongside Flyboy Rocco Rock.
Johnny Grunge.
That is correct, Johnny Grunge. So we have it 1 fall apiece.
Ooh-wee. Come on, Johnny Rock. Come on, baby. Come on, let's go.
Question number 3 for all the marbles and a Sheets gift card. No, sorry.
Son of a bitch.
It's going to be a thing for the rest of all time. You hear about
bullshit.
All right. The late professional wrestler is a member of the WCW and WWF Halls of Fame. He lost a body slam challenge to
Big John
Andre.
Studd.
That is correct. Big John Studd
Let's go.
is the answer.
I didn't realize he was in WCW. I'll be honest with you.
I didn't either.
Like, John Studd was the name that popped in my head when you said Hall of Fame, and I was like, I didn't think he was there.
I didn't think so either, but he's in the WCW Hall of Fame, so.
Because wasn't Earthquake's name John Tom? Like, I was
John
like, maybe it's Earthquake. So I was like, but nope, good job. I did not realize
so we have a little.
Little RVD. Where's my music, Hoss? Come on. Oh, man.
Here we go. All right, let me try this one more time. Told you it's been a while since I ran the board.
Ah, Hoss, you're killing me, babe. See, if you would have said Wawa. What was that thing Cesaro used to do? Or something like that, right? Yeah, that was. Yeah, Cesaro was my man. Listen, Johnny Rock, again, dude. I swear to you, I promise you on everything I love, I mean this 1,000%. It was long overdue for you to come on Wrestle Talk Podcast. I had a great time interviewing you. I knew it was going to be a good interview. I'm glad it lined up. I'm uberly excited to check out Tri-States Wrestling, especially if you come to Gladstone, because I can get away from the house in Gladstone. Going up there, my wife would be like, what the fuck you doing? I'm in Gladstone. So, but no, in all seriousness, man, thank you so freaking much for coming on Wrestle Talk Podcast. I really, really mean it, man. It was long overdue. It's been a long time. You've been a staple in this area as far as I'm concerned, and you always do a good job. You entertain fans like me and Renee, and I'm glad to have you on. So please tell all of us, tell everybody out there in Wrestle Talk Podcast land, where can we find you? Talk to me social media. Talk to me about TSW social media. How can we find TSW? How can we find Johnny Rock?
So Tri-States Wrestling is on Twitter. It's at Wrestling Tri. We mainly use that to promote the flyers to people in the areas. We don't do a lot on there besides finding people who are local wrestling fans to where we're running and tweet at them. Let them know. That's the primary thing that happens there. Facebook, Tri-States Wrestling, just one word, boom. Like, we got lucky to have that. Because there is another Tri-States Wrestling that formed right after us in Indiana. So we get a lot of their traffic, which is, I answer probably 5 emails a day from them, and hopefully people send out ours this way.
Right.
So at Tri-States Wrestling on Instagram and Facebook, myself, Dunbar Wrestles, or Math Magician, either one of those. Hit those up. I'm watching them all the time. And those are the socials you can find. The big one's Tri-States. Anything I'm doing will be promoted by Tri-States. Unless I'm going somewhere for a match, which, again, most of my matches are going to be in Tri-States. They'll probably be if I'm wrestling outside of that, it'll be at First Time Ever, on tap, and I'm going back to New Breed for one more time. So most of my matches are going to be at Tri-States if you're trying to follow me there. So follow Tri-States. That's the big one. And all the guys from there, like I said, we got Blair Dior, Tobias Storm, Franco Varga, Jake Hollister, Wyatt, Luke Langley, Jeremy Wyatt, Justin Fowler, AK-47. There's so many guys, and they all deserve a follow because, they're all good. And when they come near you, you don't want to see them. There's so many. You can't shout them all out because people are going to be like, what? I can't follow this. Yeah, you just go to the Tri-States page, follow all the guys that are there because they're worth following. They're worth watching. And if you get a chance to come to an event, it's worth it. All our events the tour has higher pricing because championship prices, so it's a little higher, but family of 4 general admission, even on the tour, is $40. So a family of 4 at Breckenridge is $30, 2 adults, 2 children. So very affordable, a little bit higher for the tour, but still not out of line. So definitely check it out if it's in your area and you're interested in wrestling. So
absolutely. Well, from the bottom of my heart, John, thank you so much for coming on Wrestle Talk Podcast. Anytime you guys promote Tri-States Wrestling, I will make sure that the Wrestle Talk podcast page itself shares them flyers so it gets eyes on it. I hope everybody packs all these houses, not only at each and every house you're packing, but the whole tour, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I do appreciate you coming on Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate being on.
Nope, absolutely, man. Wawa for life. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Boo. I'm sending you a sheet shirt. You're getting a sheet shirt. That's
all right. Thank you for coming on, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast family. It's always a pleasure. And just hopefully you'll be back with us again.
Hope so. Take care, guys.
Thank you, John.
All right, Sonny, that's another good night here at Wrestle Talk Podcast in the books. Show 446. Your thoughts, sir?
We're climbing, brother. We're climbing, man. Yeah, listen, great time. It's 9:30 Central Time. I have to be up at 4 a.m. I'm going back home to Philadelphia until Sunday. So, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to look to get the name of Wrestle Talk Podcast out there on the East Coast. I know you're already doing a good job with that, Hardcore Ross, but, my loudmouth ass, I'm going to be like, yo, I'll go to pull into the Wawa. I'll be like, yo, did you hear about Wrestle Talk Podcast? We're on episode 447. Just knocked it out last night. It's great times. Check it out. Social media. But dude, it's always a good time hosting on here, and I always have a great time hosting with you, Hoss. It's been a while, and man, we picked up right where we left off last time, man. So thank you for a great show tonight.
Definitely, it's always a good time when you're around, Sonny. We really enjoy it, and it was a great show. And actually, I believe when you're in Philadelphia, you'll probably be somewhere between 2 to 3 hours away from where I am.
Yeah.
So, you'll be close by. Something happens, you find yourself where you got a day to kill or something, hit me up. Maybe I can make a trip or something. Who knows?
Man, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
If my family drives me up the wall, which I hope they don't, but if they do, I'll just be like, yo, Hoss, I'm coming down. You know what I mean? So, but no, man, thank you again. Thank you for tonight. I'm glad we got high spots going. I'm glad we got Big Daddy P on. I'm sorry to all my viewers out there that had to deal with El Matarantes. He was here to promote the FWWC. Please be sure to check that out. Please be sure to check out all of our sponsors. And Hoss, if you wouldn't mind, let's get those sponsors going one more time, because listen, we wouldn't be able to do these Tuesday nights. I say this, I sound like a broken record, but I freaking mean it, man. We wouldn't be able to have cool guests like Johnny Rock on here if we didn't have all these sponsors. So big shout out to Royals Mills Transportation, DeJuan Mills. That's my brother from another. Go see him. Rathbun Engraving. Get your Wrestle Talk Podcast mug for just $20. $20. Noble Men's Barber Lounge, KCMO. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall out there in Overland Park, Kansas. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeye Design. Get your Wrestle Talk Podcast Tumblr there. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, as was proven tonight. The champion came on. He graced us with his presence. I shouldn't really say that. He just talked a lot of BS, and we had to hear it. But nonetheless, check out the FWWC. Check out all them sponsors. If it wasn't for each and every one of those sponsors, me and Hardcore Hoss and the rest of these guys here at Wrestle Talk Podcast wouldn't be able to come on live every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. So, Hoss, thank you, my friend. 447 in the books. Let's rock it next week with 448. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan to me. I know that they got guests lined up.
Yep.
And I'm sure the hosts are ready to go once again.
Absolutely.
So just looking forward to it. Another great show, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. All right, brother. Well, thank you very much. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Night.